Chapter 2739. It was another blood, evil divine guard, and it was much stronger than the blood evil divine guard he had just killed. The number of slaughter marks on the blood armor had reached 81. In order to kill Su Fong, it seemed that the city lord had taken out his trump card, the blood evil divine guard, regardless of the consequences. If I devour this blood evil divine guard, I might be able to condense a few more slaughter marks. Su Fong stared at the blood evil divine guard, his eyes shining brightly. Kill! The blood evil divine guard roared like a wild beast. Its killing aura suddenly erupted and turned into a domain that enveloped Su Fong. Su Fong suddenly felt a chill all over his body. His Taoist heart trembled slightly, and an instinctive fear surged from the bottom of his heart. At the same time, his life aura was rapidly fading away in the boundless killing aura. Whoosh, the killing aura rolled and condensed into a palm print that pressed down on Su Fong. Su Fong activated his blood evil divine body. The blood evil divine chi in his body flowed wonderfully in the slaughter marks, and then erupted with sword chi that collided with the palm print. The sword chi was shattered, and the palm print was also torn apart by the sword chi. However, Su Fong was still shaken by the remaining power of the palm print. He staggered, and even his Taoist heart and will were affected. His face turned pale, and his life aura withered. This blood evil divine guard is much more powerful than the previous one, but it won't be difficult for me to kill it. Su Fong's eyes were brimming with strong confidence. The blood evil divine guard activated his murderous aura and took a step forward. With an unstoppable momentum, he struck out a palm print with a murderous aura. The strong killing and life-destroying aura formed a storm, causing everything around to fall into a gray and deathly silence. Even the space was corroded by the aura, and wrinkles appeared. Bam! Su Fong activated the flame-stomping boots with all his strength. The powerful driving force caused his body to shoot to the right, breaking free of the shackles of the slaughter domain and avoiding the attack of the blood evil divine guard. Swoosh! Two figures suddenly jumped out of Su Fong's glabella. They were his black-yellow Dharma body and black-yang Dharma body. They charged toward the blood evil divine guards at the same time. The black and yellow Dharmakaya merged with the power of Xian Tiansheng, ancestral Graygon, and the other masters under him. 6 great divine powers erupted and rolled toward the blood evil divine guards. The mystic Yang Dharma body, on the other hand, unleashed the true eyes of incineration. The mystic Yang Taoist rhyme, will, and dermic powers condensed into a needle radiance that shot towards the heart of the blood fiend divine guard. The blood evil divine guard was indeed powerful. He released a murderous aura that shattered the 6 great divine guards deployed by the black and yellow Dharmakaya. The thought needles were also shattered by the silver-gray, murderous aura that erupted from Slayer's mark. The blood evil Dharmakaya was Su Fong's real killer move. He used the blood evil divine guards to display the blood evil aura. The aura moved along the slaughter mark in a strange way, bursting out streaks of sword chi. They formed a sword formation, intertwining like runes. More than 100 streaks of sword radiance slowly formed. The sword formation spun out in an instant and landed on the blood evil divine guard while it was still dealing with the attacks of the black-yellow celestial body and the black-yang celestial body. Swoosh! 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 Countless streaks of sword radiance, condensed from killing aura, erupted, enveloping the blood evil divine guard. The sword flow crisscrossed. The blood evil divine guard's blood armor defense was cut open by the sword chi from the formation. Its body was also cut into pieces. After holding on for half an hour, the powerful blood evil divine guard was killed by Su Fong. Powerful, too powerful. Su Fong's blood evil Dharmakaya is more than 10 times stronger than when he was at the beginning of the siege battle. I didn't expect that a siege battle would promote his blood evil Dharmakaya to such an amazing level. Other than the blood evil Dharmakaya, Su Fong actually has 2 other Dharmakaya. Genius. Once this person grows up, he will definitely be a peerless genius. Below the Sanguine Massacre platform, When the crowd saw the powerful strength displayed by Su Fong, no one had the courage to challenge him. The only thing left was awe. Dong Xianjun looked at Su Fong with a dignified expression that had never been seen before. At this moment, he had already regarded Su Fong as an enemy. Although it was not enough to call him a strong opponent, it was enough for him to take him seriously. Watching Su Fong wantonly devouring the remaining blood-evil aura of the blood-evil divine guards on the Sanguine Massacre platform, the city lord felt as if he was devouring his life. Murderous intent surged in his eyes, and he almost could not control the killing intent in his heart. He wanted to rush onto the Sanguine Massacre platform and fight Su Fong to the death. At the risk of being obliterated by Heaven Pavilion, the city lord had taken out the blood-evil divine guards, hoping to kill Su Fong. In the end, the blood-evil divine guards were killed by Su Fong and became nutrients for Su Fong's improvement. How could the city lord not be angry? Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Su Fong's blood armor condensed again. This time it was not one, but two. At this time, Su Fong's slaughter marks had reached as high as 70. In the history of the Blood Valley, there was a peerless genius who had cultivated 72 slaughter marks. No one had surpassed him until now. It was also this genius who had won 100 battles, obtained the Sanguine Massacre token, and was listed on the mysterious sky list. Su Fong still had 4 battles left, but he had already condensed 70 slaughter marks. He definitely had a chance to surpass that peerless genius. While enduring the baptism of the blood-evil aura, Su Fong looked at the city lord below the Sanguine Massacre platform and sneered. "Your Excellency, are there any more blood-evil divine guards? Take them out again and let me have 2 more slaughter marks. Madman, I will tear you to pieces." The city lord let out a hysterical howl and released another blood fiend divine guard. With a flash of blood, the blood-evil divine guard appeared on the Sanguine Massacre platform. Unlike the previous 2 blood-evil divine guards, this blood-evil divine guard had no aura and was covered in a thick blood armor from head to toe. Su Fong sensed it and found that this blood-evil divine guard was surging with an astonishing life aura. However, there were still 81 slaughter marks on its body. A blood-evil divine guard with life aura is really strange. Su Fong's eyes were extremely solemn. This blood-evil divine guard was somewhat different, so he had to deal with it with all his strength. Dong Xianjun transmitted his thoughts to the city lord. "Your Excellency, if this blood-evil divine guard, the highest level in the 2nd Killing Star City, is killed by Su Fong, not only will you be obliterated by Heaven Pavilion, but your family will also be wiped out." The city lord said bitterly, "This blood-evil divine guard was cultivated from the body of an expert. It is a new blood-evil divine guard that Heaven Pavilion has focused on cultivating. How can I not know its importance? However, now that the arrow has been knocked on the bow, I have no choice but to release it. If I don't kill Su Fong, my life will be in danger." On the Sanguine Massacre platform, the blood-evil divine guard had already launched an attack on Su Fong. With a light punch, the life aura in his body instantly turned dead still. Then, an astonishing aura suddenly erupted, causing the blood-red stars above the Sanguine Massacre platform to suddenly darken, and the space around the Sanguine Massacre platform trembled. The aura contained a will to abandon everything and kill everything. Su Fong instantly understood. The terrifying thing about this blood-evil divine guard was that he had abandoned everything in himself, including life, power, will, and so on, condensed into this attack. The power of this attack was naturally astonishing. Su Fong was forced to retreat again and again. The blood-evil divine body was constantly shattering, and so was his physical body. Blood was constantly oozing out of his 7 orifices. Fight! If he did not fight with his life on the line, Su Fong would be suppressed by this blood-evil divine guard. He had no choice but to fight now. Hiss! Su Fong's life aura, the blood-evil divine body in the blood-evil divine body, the Xian Huang, Xian Yang, primordial spirit, heavenly way, and other celestial bodies, as well as the physical body of the great perfection divine body, were all madly drained of power and disappeared in an instant. He had also abandoned his Tao heart and will. Only by abandoning everything was the true pinnacle of the way of slaughter. Su Fong condensed everything he had into a fist and suddenly erupted with a violent and murderous aura, rushing out to meet the attack of the blood-evil Divine Guard. At this time, Su Fong was like a god of slaughter who had fallen into madness. Rumble. Like two stars colliding, the space of the blood slaughter arena shook violently, and the surrounding boundary expanded for a while before shattering. The body of the blood-evil Divine Guard completely collapsed, turning into blood splattering everywhere. QL-11 Su Fong was also sent flying, landing on the ground of the blood slaughter arena. The blood armor on his body was completely shattered, and his physical body was collapsing everywhere. Not only the blood-evil divine body and physical body, but the other celestial bodies, except for the purple fate celestial body, were also in a state of exhaustion. Although he had won, it was a Pyrrhic victory with both sides suffering. Su Fong sat cross-legged with difficulty. After forming a seal with his hands, he slowly absorbed the remaining aura of the blood-evil Divine Guard to restore the blood-evil Divine Body. At the same time, he swallowed elixirs to restore the injuries and consumption of his physical body and celestial body. Then, after being cleansed by the pure blood-evil aura projected by the blood-red star, the blood armor on Su Fong's blood-evil Divine Body finally recovered a little, but not by much, just barely keeping it from shattering. Chi, chi, chi. The murderous star pattern on the blood armor flashed with a dim silver gray Xian Guang, and 3 slaughter marks appeared one after another. 73 slaughter marks. Below the blood slaughter arena, there was a dead silence. Just before the crowd could react, a thin figure flashed onto the blood slaughter arena. Su Fong, I challenge you. Dong Xianchan. The one who challenged Su Fong on the stage was the delicate girl, Dong Xianchan. What are you doing here? Su Fong smiled with difficulty, his eyes full of helplessness. Of course, Su Fong understood Dong Xianchan's intention. She planned to buy time for Su Fong to recover, just like Dong Xianchan. However, the injuries and consumption of energy this time were too severe. No matter how strong Su Fong's recovery ability was, it would be difficult for him to recover in a short time with extraordinary elixirs. Moreover, Dong Xianchan's previous actions had almost caused the blood valleys will to descend. If he were to repeat the same trick this time, it would be very difficult to predict the consequences. However, once Dong Xianchan stepped onto the blood slaughter arena, she could not go down before the outcome was decided. Dong Xianjun said coldly, "This bitch wants to die. Since they want to die, I'll fulfill their wishes. If they dare to cheat again, I'll immediately communicate with the Blood Valley's will and wipe them all out." Chapter 2740. Brother Su Fong, hurry up and recover. Dong Xianchan shot out a Xianguang. The Xianguang was shrouded in some pills, including the silver-striped blood pill refined by Su Fong and some other pills. Su Fong was deeply moved. His relationship with Dong Xianchan and Dong Xianchan was not that deep. However, the two of them had saved him in the black market of the Second Slaughter City. This time, they had come to the blood slaughter arena to help him. Their actions would offend Dong Xianjun. Their future in the East Profound Heaven Pavilion would not be easy. However, they still stood out without the slightest hesitation, allowing Su Fong to deeply realize that besides killing and plundering between cultivators, there was similarly friendship between cultivators. Su Fong stared at Dong Xianchan. "Why did you do this?" Dong Xianchan said with a red face, "I hope you can defeat Dong Xianjun. Only you could defeat him. Then, he won't dare to be so arrogant in the Heaven Pavilion. He won't bully me and senior brother Ichen." Dong Xianjun was a peerless genius with an important position in the East Profound Heaven Pavilion. Among the many disciples, Dong Xianichen and Dong Xianchan were also bullied by him. Helping Su Fong was equivalent to helping themselves. Then, Dong Xianchan raised his head and said, "Although senior brother Ichen and I are both disciples of the Heaven Pavilion, we are no different from ordinary cultivators. We are also bullied and oppressed in the Heaven Pavilion, but we don't have the courage to fight back. We can only run away. But you, on the other hand, are from a low-level universe, but you dare to fight against all oppression. From you, we see endless courage and faith. We can't do what we don't dare to do. We hope you can do it. Dong Xianchan, who was very weak, showed a kind of determination at this time. Thank you. Su Fong was moved. His courage and faith began to burn. Then he created a time array on the blood slaughter arena and swallowed all kinds of pills and spiritual items to recover the heavy injuries and great consumption of his physical body in Dharmakaya. He stopped thinking about the will of the Blood Valley. He also stopped thinking about how to survive the remaining 2 battles. He only focused on the present, trying his best to recover and win himself a chance of survival. Below the blood slaughter platform, the city lord closed his eyes and formed a strange seal with his hands. His body trembled slightly. He was using a secret technique to communicate with the will of Blood Valley, with his divine consciousness. 2 hours later, Su Fong, who was recovering with all his strength, suddenly opened his eyes and looked at the blood-red star above the blood slaughter arena with a look of helplessness and despair. At this moment, the heavenly fate shrinking technique and the heavenly divination unraveling true text flashed in the Jioshuan Dao Palace at the same time. Even the purple fate avatar trembled as it sensed the impending doom and disaster. It was obvious that Su Fong and Dong Xianchan's actions had violated the rules of the blood slaughter platform. Now that they had been noticed by the Blood Valley's will, it was about to descend and obliterate them. However, given his current state, the only thing he could do was wait for death. Not only him, but even Dong Xianchan would not be spared. Whoosh! A blood-red light descended from the sky. The blood-red light circled above the blood slaughter arena and quickly condensed into a blood-red hand. It pressed down on Su Fong and Dong Xianchan on the blood slaughter arena. The hand contained the supreme will of the Blood Valley. Su Fong felt that he and Dong Xianchan were insignificant ants in front of this hand. They couldn't resist, and the 2 of them would be crushed to dust in an instant. This scene made many cultivators below the blood slaughter arena turn pale with horror and cry out in alarm. Sensing the supreme will contained in the hand, everyone trembled. They could not summon the slightest will to resist. They felt as if they were facing the supreme heavenly Tao, which was not something that could be resisted by life. You are courting death. Since you violated the rules of the blood slaughter arena, you'll be obliterated by the will of Blood Valley. The city lord sneered and looked at the blood slaughter arena with satisfaction after venting his anger. Su Fong and Dong Xianchan were about to be obliterated by the hand. Suddenly, a figure flashed out from Su Fong's body. No one could see this figure because their realm was not high enough and they were not qualified to detect its existence. The figure was incomparably illusory and looked like it could be blown apart by a gust of wind. However, it contained a powerful will. With a glance, it shattered the hand formed by the will of Blood Valley. Shi Xian Daozu. At the critical moment, Shi Xian Daozu had appeared of his own accord and resolved this life and death crisis for Su Fong. Although the will of Blood Valley was powerful, it was the supreme ruler of Blood Valley, and no one could defy it. However, Blood Valley was refined from the corpse of a foreign race expert killed by Dong Xian Daozu. No matter how powerful the will was, how could it surpass Shi Xian Daozu? The blood-red star above the blood slaughter arena trembled constantly, as if it was afraid of Shi Xian Daozu. A mere will of Blood Valley wants to suppress this ancestor's disciple? It was the city lord who broke the rules first. So what if this ancestor's disciple broke the rules once or twice? Scram, or this ancestor will obliterate you. Shi Xian Daozu snorted domineeringly. His figure flashed and disappeared into Su Fong's body. The blood-red star calmed, and no more will descended. Naturally, no one could see Shi Xian Daozu attack. They could only see the supreme will of Blood Valley inexplicably shatter, just as it was about to suppress Su Fong and Dong Xianchan. This scene shocked and stunned everyone, causing them to look at the blood slaughter stage in confusion. The city lord gaped at the blood-red star above the blood slaughter arena. Why is it like this? Why did blood valleys will not obliterate Su Fong? This is not possible. This is not possible. Dong Xianjun's face was also filled with disbelief. He could not understand, no matter how hard he tried. Even Su Fong himself was dumbstruck. However, he quickly reacted and sent a thought to Shi Xian Daozu. Master, did you save this disciple? Who else could it be other than me? Shi Xian Daozu's voice sounded in the Jiushuan Dao Palace. Then, Shi Xian Daozu snorted domineeringly. Su Fong, you're not bad. This master is very satisfied. Master sent you to Dongxian a train, not to send you to your death. The blood valley that Dongxian old fellow created is merely a spirit of the world. How can it be allowed to bully this ancestor's disciple? Su Fong was overjoyed. Not only did he save his life, but he had also gained Shi Xian Daozu's approval. Su Fong could be considered to have grasped Shi Xian Daozu's temperament. This supreme Shi Xian looked heartless, but he was very protective of his own people. QL11, however, Su Fong also understood that the reason Shi Xian Daozu was so protective of him was because his performance had gained Daozu's approval. Su Fong was only Shi Xian Daozu's unofficial disciple now. If he was not valued by Shi Xian Daozu and had no value in nurturing him, why would Shi Xian Daozu care about his life and death? Finally, he had won Shi Xian Daozu's approval with his own efforts and an unyielding and resilient cultivator's heart. How could Su Fong not be overjoyed? Who knew? Shi Xian Daozu's next words were like a bucket of cold water splashing down on Su Fong's head. This master has helped you resolve the crisis this time. Consider it that you've used up one of my chances. You only have 2 chances left. Su Fong was dumbfounded. It was Shi Xian Daozu who had taken the initiative. How could it be considered as using up one of his chances? It cannot be helped. Whatever Shi Xian Daozu said was the truth. How could Su Fong refute it? He no longer worried about being wiped out by the Blood Valley's will and began to focus on recovering. The speed of recovery this time was much slower and more difficult than the previous time. Moreover, there were not many Blood Demon pills left. He could only rely on the Blood Demon stones and the Blood Demon avatar obtained from the cultivators he had killed to recover. Therefore, the recovery of the Blood Demon avatar was even more difficult. Fortunately, there were many high-level spiritual items inside the 6 extreme Dao Saint avatar. The recovery speed of his physical body and avatar was extremely shocking, far surpassing that of ordinary cultivators. 5,000 years passed in the formation. Su Fong's almost exhausted avatars and physical injuries had finally recovered by more than half. However, he was still not at his peak state. If the consumption was too shocking and damaged the origin of Su Fong's avatar, it would take a long time to recover to its peak state. This was not something that spiritual items or pills could make up for in a short period of time. The Blood Demon avatar had only recovered by 50%. The main reason was that all the Blood Demon pills had been used up. The recovery speed of Su Fong's Blood Demon avatar was naturally not as terrifying as before. However, such a recovery speed still caused a great shock below the blood slaughter arena. Those cultivators thought that if such injuries were to happen to them, how could they recover in just a few thousand years? Su Fong walked out of the formation and looked at Dong Xianchan, Sister Xiao Chan. I've almost recovered. You can admit defeat and leave the blood slaughter arena. You have to be careful next. Dong Xianjun will definitely deal with you personally. Dong Xianchan nodded and walked down the blood slaughter arena after admitting defeat. In this way, Su Fong obtained his 98th victory. He was only 2 victories away from his 100th victory. Su Fong looked down at Dong Xianjun with disdain. It's your turn. Dong Xianjun slowly stood up from his throne. I originally planned to wait for you to win your 99th victory before facing you in the final battle. Now, it seems that no one will come out to challenge you. I'll have to personally take action. This battle will be the final battle. Then he stepped into the air and walked up the blood slaughter arena step by step. There was a supreme, domineering aura in his calmness, causing many cultivators to cheer. Dong Xianjun stood opposite Su Fong and said calmly, "If you surrender now, I can let bygones be bygones. I can also resolve the matter of you killing the blood demon divine guards for you. I can also promise to give you a certain amount of freedom." Su Fong sneered. "Dong Xianjun, don't you think it's ridiculous that you're still acting like a genius of the Eastern Profound Heaven Pavilion? I want to give you opportunities, but you'd rather die. Then I have no choice but to kill you," Dong Xianjun said lightly. "You're very extraordinary. You're even more extraordinary than most of the Eastern Profound Heaven Pavilion disciples. For a cultivator from a low-level universe to be so extraordinary, you must have opportunities that other cultivators don't have. I'll take your life and your opportunities." Chapter 2741. Su Fong doesn't know what's good for him. If he could follow young Master Dong Xianjun, his future would be limitless. Even if he doesn't want to submit, there's no need to clash with young Master Dong Xianjun. Offending Dong Xianjun is equivalent to offending the East Profound Heavenly Pavilion. How can he stand out in the Eastern Profound Divine Domain in the future? For freedom, he would rather die than submit. I admire Su Fong very much. Cultivators should be like this. At least, who can compare to his boldness and boldness? That's right. Should we lowly cultivators be controlled our entire lives? Cultivators should have an unyielding heart. Even if we fail, even if we die, we shouldn't be cowards for the rest of our lives. Well said. Cultivators should be like stars, blooming their own brilliance. Even if they can't be stars, they should be shooting stars. Although it's only for a moment, they should shine brightly. Many cultivators below the Sanguine Massacre platform were communicating with each other through divine thoughts, discussing Su Fong. Some were still scoffing at Su Fong's actions, but most people were leaning towards Su Fong, especially the lowly cultivators. At this moment, they had already taken Su Fong as a symbol of resistance and unyielding spirit. "Su Fong, I've said before that I'll let you climb to the top of the clouds and then beat you down to the mortal world. Next, I'll let you know the consequences of defying me." Dong Xianjun's expression was no longer as calm and easygoing as before. It was filled with unparalleled dominance and coldness. "TSK, TSK, TSK." A murderous aura erupted from his body, tearing apart his gorgeous robes and revealing his blood-fiend Dharma body covered in blood armor. There were a total of 64 Slayer marks on the Star of Slaughter pattern on his blood armor. Silver-gray Slayer marks extended from the pattern to the blood armor, interweaving into a perfect boundary. It made Dong Xianjun exude an austere aura and added a bit of dominance. "Su Fong, although you're lucky to have condensed 73 Slayer marks, your blood-fiend Dharma body hasn't recovered yet. You can't use its full strength. I won't take advantage of you. As long as you can take 3 of my punches, I won't use my blood-fiend Dharma body to suppress you." Dong Xianjun took a step forward calmly. In an instant, the murderous aura on his body vanished without a trace, making him look like a mortal. The next moment, a blood slaughter aura revolved around the slaughter mark on the blood armor. After brewing for a moment, Lin Ming casually punched out. A monstrous slaughter aura erupted from his fist like a giant wave, causing the space around the blood slaughter arena to tremble and rumble. The aura of slaughter caused the space around the blood slaughter arena to tremble and emit a sharp screeching sound. It passed through the enchantment around the blood slaughter arena and attacked the many cultivators below. The cultivators below the Dowlord realm immediately bled from their ears and felt dizzy. Even their Dao hearts and wills trembled without end under the impact of the sound. This is Dong Xianjun's attack. It's too powerful. It's definitely not weaker than the first 2 Blood Evil Divine Guards that Su Fong killed. It's just a little weaker than the strongest one. The Heaven Pavilion geniuses on the Tianxian ranking indeed live up to their reputation. Even an upper-level Dao Lord would probably be unable to resist Dong Xianjun's punch. Su Fong is in danger now. All the cultivators were astounded. Only now did they realize that Dong Xianjun's strength had far exceeded their imagination. The gap between us is actually so huge. Dong Xianchen stared at Dong Xianjun on the blood slaughter arena as a feeling of powerlessness arose in his heart. What a powerful attack! It's extremely similar to the attack executed by the blood evil divine guards. Why is it even more profound and powerful? Su Fong stood towering without moving. He utilized the heavenly prying eye, and the light of deduction flickered ceaselessly in his eyes. From the moment Dong Xianjun prepared his attack to the moment he attacked, it was impossible for it to escape his eyes. The clearer he saw, the more astounded Su Fong was in his heart. In an instant, Dong Xianjun charged towards Su Fong with a monstrous wave. A wisp of understanding flashed in Su Fong's eyes, and then he faced Dong Xianjun's attack head-on. He utilized the blood evil divine body and charged towards Dong Xianjun with large strides. Bang! Su Fong was thrown back hundreds of feet. Cracks appeared on his blood armor, and the killing star pattern dimmed a little. Blood also seeped from the corner of his mouth. If he did not possess 73 slaughter marks, and the blood evil divine body's overall cultivation base did not overwhelm Dong Xianjun's, this collision would have directly destroyed his blood armor. Fortunately, he possessed the colorful jade Taoist heart, which was supported by a strong Taoist heart will. He could easily withstand the Taoist heart attack contained in Dong Xianjun's attack. QL11, one of the reasons was that his blood spirit celestial body had yet to recover, but the biggest reason was that Dong Xianjun's attack was truly powerful. With only 64 slaughter marks, he had unleashed a power that was even stronger than that of an ordinary blood spirit divine guard. Su Fong is injured. Fortunately, his injury is not serious. Su Fong should be able to hold on. This is just the beginning. Dong Xianjun clearly has not used his full strength. If he does, Su Fong will definitely not be his match. If Su Fong was at his peak, Dong Xianjun might not be able to shake Su Fong's blood fury Dharmakaya. Some cultivators who were worried about Su Fong felt their hearts ache as they watched from below. Dong Xianjun nodded at Su Fong and said, "Not bad indeed. You actually managed to comprehend the crux of my attack. If you were given enough time, you would also be able to use the blood evil Dharma body to exert an even more powerful force like me. Unfortunately, I will not give you the time for the second punch." Dong Xianjun's murderous aura was retracted to the extreme once more. Every pore, every strand of hair, the murderous aura was retracted into the blood demon avatar before it exploded again. Its aura was several times more terrifying than the previous attack. On the blood slaughter stage, the weather instantly changed. A terrifying aura of slaughter spread out, causing the space to shiver. This aura contained a will that could erase all life, turning the entire space of the blood slaughter arena into a world of death. The aura seeped out of the boundary. Although it was weakened significantly, the cultivators who were affected not only felt their Tao heart tremble, but also their life aura. They had no choice but to use their defenses to resist the terrifying aura. I wonder if Su Fong can take Dong Xianjun's second punch? Everyone widened their eyes, fearing that they would miss something. The power of this second punch is not bad, but it's still far from being able to suppress Su Fong. Su Fong sneered and charged at Dong Xianjun again. He retracted his aura abruptly and threw out a punch casually like Dong Xianjun. With the help of his heaven-prying eye, Su Fong had already seen through the source of Dong Xianjun's powerful strength. The way Dong Xianjun released the blood demon aura was the same as the blood demon divine guards that Su Fong had fought previously. Apart from operating the blood demon aura in a strange way, Dong Xianjun was also able to restrain the blood demon aura to the extreme before suddenly releasing it. Of course, it was one thing to understand it, but it was another to put it to use. When Su Fong's first fist collided, he made use of the moment of collision to gain a clearer understanding of the situation. He also became more confident in himself. When the second punch was thrown, the two astonishing powers collided, bursting out streaks of blood-red starlight, tearing the surrounding space apart and causing an earth-shattering explosion. The entire space of the blood slaughter arena was violently shaken. Bang! The two figures separated in the frenzy of the collision. Everyone below the blood slaughter arena looked intently. They saw that Dong Xianjun and Su Fang's blood armors were full of cracks, and their auras had become chaotic. The two of them were evenly matched in this collision. Su Fang had been in a sorry state after a series of fierce battles, so no one could see anything wrong with him. Dong Xianjun was originally calm and domineering, but now he was in a particularly sorry state. Amazing. I still underestimated you, Su Fang. Not only are you qualified to be my opponent, but you are also qualified for me to deal with you with all my strength. Dong Xianjun spat out a mouthful of black blood that was filled with death qi and a fierce, murderous aura. His eyes became solemn. Young Master Dong Xianjun, you must be very disappointed, right? Su Fang sneered. Dong Xianjun smiled coldly. I have one more punch. If you could take it, I will no longer use the blood slaughter avatar, and you will be qualified to taste my other slaughter avatars and the supreme, remarkable powers of Heaven Pavilion. Qi, 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 qi. Dong Xianjun's blood slaughter aura erupted from his body and quickly integrated into the surrounding space of the blood slaughter arena, instantly taking control of the surrounding space. Then he clenched his fist, and in an instant, all the power in the space of the blood slaughter arena was in his hands. He then threw out another punch. This punch was filled with boundless killing intent, as well as a supreme will to slaughter all life. Su Fang's eyes revealed a strong fighting spirit. 73 slaughter marks flashed together, condensing all the power and killing intent of the blood slaughter avatar. They turned into streaks of sword qi and formed a vast sword array. With a terrifying aura that could tear everything apart, they charged at Dong Xianjun, forcefully blocking the oncoming qi waves. Although this attack was not as powerful as the one he used to fight against the strongest blood slaughter puppet, it was still astonishing. Qi, qi. Su Fang's sword array shattered layer by layer in the fierce collision. While Dong Xianjun's attack was also constantly worn down, its power greatly reduced. Boom, boom, boom. Deafening explosions occurred in an area of 1,000 feet around Dong Xianjun and Su Fang. Even the space was violently shaken and cut apart by the sword array. Crack, crack. Dong Xianjun's blood slaughter avatar's aura integrated into the space, triggering the blood slaughter arena space. Although it was powerful, it could not bear the huge burden and constantly emitted cracking sounds. The blood armor began to peel off layer by layer. Su Fang had abandoned all the power and killing intent of the blood slaughter avatar and used the sword array to attack, but it could not last long. Puff! Dong Xianjun's blood armor finally collapsed. He staggered and almost fell on the blood slaughter arena. Su Fang's sword array had also exhausted its power, and the blood slaughter avatar's power was almost completely depleted. What a pity. If my blood slaughter avatar had fully recovered, I could have used this opportunity to kill Dong Xianjun's blood slaughter avatar in one fell swoop. Su Fang's heart was filled with regret, but he could no longer use the blood slaughter avatar to form an effective attack. Good. Su Fang, since you and I can no longer use our blood slaughter avatars, let's compete with our true strength. Chapter 2742. When Dong Xianjun's Dharma body appeared, it felt like a peerless sword had descended. It exuded a sharp sword qi, and the sound of the sword hummed. It formed waves that swept away the surrounding aura of bloodlust. This Dharma body of mine is called the Five-Element Sword Body. When I fought with my enemies in the past, I usually used this Dharma body. Su Fang, use your full strength. Otherwise, you won't have the chance to use it again. Dong Xianjun's Dharma body spoke coldly. It sounded like the humming of a sword. While the voice was still buzzing, a thought transformed into a red ball and shot towards Su Fang with a whoosh. Of course, it was not an ordinary ball. It was a thought formed by the fusion of Dong Xianjun's divine sense, will, Dharma power, and Dharma power. It wasn't an ordinary thought attack as well. The ball formed from thoughts surged with fierce and scorching flaming sword qi, and it condensed into a sword pill. Its might was even greater than an ordinary divine ability of the sword technique. Moreover, it even possessed the might to attack the Tao heart and will and incinerate the quintessent soul. In a flash, the sword pill appeared less than 100 feet away from Su Fong. It exploded with sword chi, and the surrounding space was torn and melted by the sharp and scorching sword chi. Before the attack landed on Su Fong, the divine sense and Taoist rhyme contained within made Su Fong's origin soul feel a terrifying feeling of being incinerated and strangled. Xianwang Dharma Body. Su Fong did not hesitate to fuse the Xianwang Dharma Body with his physical body. He was only a Tao True Realm cultivator now. Although he could separate the Xianwang Dharma Body from his physical body and use abhijanas independently, its power was not as strong as fusing with his physical body. A six-colored pagoda phantom appeared from Su Fong's body. One of the pagoda doors opened. Water-type abhijanas erupted. Under the control of Su Fong's divine sense, it turned into a raging tide that surged out. Rumble. Dong Xianjun's thought attack collided with Su Fong's Dharma Body. Streaks of sword chi exploded, and white mist rose. At this moment, Su Fong was still unable to use any other thought attacks other than the true eyes of incineration. However, with the strength of the black and yellow Dharma Body, the power of the direct attack was equally shocking. After all, the Xianwang celestial body was based on the Xianhuang Six Paths Pagoda and cultivated from the spiritual items within the Six Extreme Tao Saint Celestial Body. It contained the Six Supreme Tao rhymes of the Six Extreme Tao Saint Celestial Body, which meant that it could not attack the enemy's soul origin. However, the divine power it could unleash was not inferior to Dong Xianjun's thoughts. On top of that, Su Fong's water-type divine aura had a certain degree of restraint against Dong Xianjun's fire-type Taoist rhyme, which allowed him to easily dissolve Dong Xianjun's thought attack. Chi. Dong Xianjun's 5-elemental sword physique released his thoughts again. Another sword pellet. What was different was that the sword pill that he released this time was emitting a golden sword light that contained an incomparably sharp and destructive Taoist aura. Su Fong activated the Xianhuang celestial body, and one of the pagoda doors opened. The fire-type divine aura roared out and instantly turned into a sea of fire that devoured the sword pellet. The sword light that erupted from the sword pellet was melted layer by Su Fong's fire-type divine aura until it was completely gone. Su Fong's fire-type divine aura was also completely exhausted. It was still difficult to determine the victor. Extraordinary. Su Fong is indeed extraordinary. He actually managed to fight Dong Xianjun, a peak Tao Lord, with his Dharma Body and not lose. He's simply extraordinary. Not only is Dong Xianjun's cultivation a great step higher than Su Fong's, but his Dharma Body is also extremely powerful. However, he still can't do anything to Su Fong. If Su Fong ascends to a higher realm, even Dong Xianjun won't be able to overshadow him. That might not be the case. Both of them are just testing each other and have yet to display their true strength. It's still too early to say who will win. All the cultivators exclaimed in surprise. No one was not shocked. In fact, they were all praising and exclaiming for Su Fong's powerful strength. Although Dong Xianjun was also quite extraordinary, his strength was nothing compared to Su Fong's. However, it paled in comparison. Such a celestial body is indeed extraordinary. It is worthy of me displaying the full strength of the 5-element sword body. Dong Xianjun originally thought that Su Fong could only sweep through the blood slaughter arena with the help of the blood slaughter arena. Without the blood evil Dharma Body, he could easily crush Su Fong with his mere cultivation of Daozhen realm. Unexpectedly, the strength displayed by Su Fong's dark yellow Dharma Body was completely out of Dong Xianjun's expectations. Hearing the people below the stage exclaim over Su Fong, Dong Xianjun, who was used to people's compliments and flattery, lost his composure at this moment. Fury and killing intent began to rise in his heart. Whoosh, whoosh, thoughts flashed out from Dong Xianjun's body, and there were actually more than 100 of them. It was already rather extraordinary for a Tao Lord Realm cultivator to be able to release 10 thoughts at the same time, and it would be difficult for them to endure anymore. It was extremely shocking for a cultivator at the peak of the upper downward realm to be able to release over 100 thoughts. It was truly astounding for Dongxian Jun to be able to release so many thoughts at the same time with his cultivation at the peak of the upper downward realm. Over 100 thoughts transformed into over 100 sword balls that surrounded Dongxian Jun's body at the center. These sword balls transformed into numerous thought-flying swords that were arranged and circulated in a strange and profound manner. They emanated strands of sword chi that crisscrossed together to form a sword formation. Metal, wood, water, fire, and earth sword chi of the 5 elements combined into one and grew endlessly. Not only did it possess a formidable defense, it possessed an indestructible offense as well. Su Feng, I'll let you experience the true might of my 5 elements sword body. Dongxian Jun's body roared complacently with laughter. As Dongxian Jun's 5 elements sword body moved, he controlled the enormous sword formation to ceaselessly extend towards the surroundings and sweep towards Su Feng. Let's see if the sword formation executed by your 5 element sword body or the strongest attack of my dark yellow Dharma body is stronger. A resolute expression flashed through Su Feng's eyes. He immediately transmitted his thoughts to the experts within the dark yellow Dharma body and ordered them to pour all their strength into it. Thump! Thump! The aura of the dark yellow Dharma body that had fused with the strength of Xin Tiancheng, the ancestral dragon, and the other experts rose abruptly. After that, all 6 levels of the pagoda doors opened, and the 6 divine auras converged together and erupted with a bang. The 6 divine auras formed the circulation of the Heaven Tao and collided with the sword formation, and they emanated terrifying might that could destroy everything in the world. Rumble. Dongxian Jun's sword formation shattered layer by layer amidst the collision that shook the heavens and the earth. After that, over 100 strands of thought shattered with a bang, while the 5-element sword body was blasted flying. Dongxian Jun absorbed the 5-element sword body into his Tao palace, and then he gazed at Su Feng while the killing intent in his eyes grew even more firm and fierce. After Su Feng's dark yellow Dharma body unleashed its strongest attack, the pagoda's phantom rapidly dimmed. Clearly, Su Feng had expended too much energy and put it away. Looking at Dongxian Jun, Su Feng said domineeringly, "Dongxian Jun, your 5-element sword body is only SOSO. Could it be that you're a peerless genius of Heaven Pavilion on the heavenly profound ranking? In the Eastern profound divine realm, no one dares to mock me with such a tone. How can I allow a lowly ant like you to offend my dignity?" Dongxian Jun was furious, and another Dharma body flashed out of the Xintian Tao Palace. This Dharma body was very peculiar. Its appearance was exactly the same as Dongxian Jun's, but its clothes and aura were completely different. The Dharma body wore a Dharma robe that surged with thunder and intertwined with each other. The Dharma body's eyes also surged with lightning, and its entire body exuded a supreme, domineering, and destructive aura. I once vowed that I wouldn't step into the Tao Lord realm until I cultivated all 6 Dharma bodies. This Dharma body is one of the 6 that I currently possess. It's called the God's Punishment Dharma body. I rarely use the God's Punishment Dharma body. It's your great honor to die under the might of my God's Punishment thunder. Dongxian Jun's Dharma body let out a thunderous voice that shook Su Feng's Tao heart. His voice reverberated in the space of the blood slaughter arena, causing the hearts of all the cultivators to tremble. It was as if they were facing the majesty of the heavenly Tao. God's Punishment Dharma body. Dongxian Jun, this Eastern profound divine pavilion genius, is indeed extraordinary. Not only did he cultivate a sword Dharma body, but he also cultivated a supreme thunder Dharma body. However, although you, Dongxian Jun, are extraordinary, I, Su Feng, am not a mediocre person either. The corners of Su Feng's mouth curled into a cold smile. His profound Yang Dharma body quickly merged with his physical body. thunder was the most terrifying force in nature. Cultivators sought the truth from the chaos and mastered thunder arts. Their power was even more terrifying than natural thunder. Cultivators that were capable of mastering thunder arts were usually much stronger than cultivators of the same realm of cultivation. They were peerlessly domineering and mighty, and they were invincible. If Su Fong didn't possess the profound Yang Dharma body, he would be utterly incapable of resisting Dongxian Jun's Thunder Dharma body. Numerous bolts of lightning suddenly flickered within the eyes of Dongxian Jun's Dharma body, and they shot out numerous bolts of lightning that surged and roared in the sky above the blood slaughter arena. Swish, swish, crack. Numerous black bolts of lightning instantly enveloped Su Fong. They carried a terrifying force of destruction that could destroy everything in the world, destroy all Tao hearts, and obliterate the quintessence and soul. Su Fong is finished now. The Eastern Profound Divine Pavilion's Tao arts are too shocking. Not to mention Su Fong. Even a peak Tao Lord would be unable to escape the fate of being annihilated. Su Fong is extraordinary indeed. Unfortunately, he encountered Dongxian Jun. Moreover, his cultivation is too low. Some cultivators couldn't help but sigh as they gazed at Su Fong, who was about to be swallowed up. Dongxian Yichen, Dongxian Chan, and Hui Tianu were extremely nervous, and their bodies and minds trembled. The city governor's eyes revealed delight and cruelty as he laughed coldly and savagely. You've lost the ability of the blood slaughter Dharma body and are using other Dharma bodies to fight young Master Dongxian Jun is no different than courting death. Su Fong stood loftily as he raised his head to look at the ferocious attacks that descended from the sky, and he revealed a domineering smile. In the next moment, a strand of divine might that contained the aura of the Tao that controlled everything in the world surged out from the Dharma body, and it charged into the sky. Yang refinement. This divine ability was a divine ability that Su Fong had comprehended from the extreme dark yang technique. The extreme dark yang technique was a peerless cultivation technique that Shi Xian's Daozu had given to Su Fong. It was extremely domineering, and it controlled all flames and lightning in the world to refine them into pure and high-grade dark yang energy. Chapter 2743. In the blink of an eye, the power of the yang refinement dark transformation technique covered and penetrated the black lightning. The terrifying destructive lightning was instantly under Su Fong's control. Then, with a series of puff, puff, puff sounds, the lightning completely disappeared. Under the power of the yang refinement dark transformation technique, the lightning was quickly refined and turned into a kind of Xianyang qi. Finally, under Su Fong's control, it was absorbed into his Xianyang Dharma body. Su Fong's Xianyang Dharma body seemed to have eaten a great tonic and immediately became full of energy. In less than 10 breaths, the shocking attack of Dongxian Jun's godly punishment Dharma body was swept away by Su Fong like a clear sky after a storm. The blood slaughter arena returned to calm. Dongxian Jun's Dharma body was dumbstruck. Dongxian Jun's eyes were filled with shock and disbelief. What kind of Dharma body is this? What kind of divine power did he use? How could he so easily break the attack of my godly punishment Dharma body? Below the blood slaughter arena, the cultivators who thought that Su Fong was dead for sure were all staring blankly. They couldn't believe what they were seeing. The city lord's smug and sinister smile froze on his face. In the silence, Su Fong suddenly said, "Why aren't you continuing? My Dharma body isn't full yet." "Continue." He still looked as if he hadn't had his fill. Dongxian Jun's Dharma body and physical body swayed as if they had been greatly humiliated. Many cultivators below the blood slaughter arena roared with laughter at Su Fong's words. The atmosphere in the blood slaughter arena, which was filled with a murderous aura, suddenly became much more relaxed. So what if you have an extraordinary Dharma body and a powerful divine power? Your realm is only at the true Tao realm. I can crush you with the height of my realm. Let's see what a peerless genius is, what a peerless Dharma body is, and what a peerless divine power is. Dongxian Jun's godly punishment Dharma body flashed, and turned into a Xian Guang, burrowing into the Tao palace of his physical body from between his brows. After that, his arms shook and another avatar fused with his body. After that, it released the might of Yin and Yang of the Heaven Tao. This Yin and Yang divine might of the heavenly Tao swept towards Su Fong at lightning speed, instantly enveloping Su Fong. The divine might that was unleashed with his thoughts was extremely swift. With just a thought, boundless power was formed in an instant. Whoosh, the Yin and Yang divine might circled around the Su Fong, shattering space. Its power was astonishing. Moreover, this divine might contain the power to reverse Yin and Yang, causing time and space, life and death, and everything else to fall into a state of chaos. At the same time, the divine might contain the power to attack one's Tao heart and soul. Su Fong felt as if everything in his body was about to fall into chaos and collapse. Another of Dongxian Jun's Dharma bodies could cast such a terrifying thought attack. I'm a heavenly Tao. I'm a master of my everything. How can I allow you to mess with me? Su Fong immediately switched his heavenly Tao avatar with his heaven and earth avatar. He rarely used his heavenly Tao avatar now, because it was a universe of its own. Within it lived his family, friends, and countless cultivators and Big Goblin from the Pongsong universe. Not the slightest mistake could be tolerated. However, in this critical moment of life and death, Su Fong could only use his heavenly Tao avatar. The moment the heavenly Tao avatar appeared, Su Fong's will of the heavenly Tao immediately took control of it, causing Dongxian Jun's Yin and Yang reversal to be unable to shake him. Then, Su Fong struck out with a Dermic seal. The heavenly Tao's power, the evolution of the heavenly Tao, and the return of all things to their origin, suddenly erupted. Yin-Yang transformation. Ever since he came to the Eastern Xian divine domain, Su Fong had not used this supreme Dermic seal, the Yin-Yang transformation. The main reason was that the Yin-Yang transformation was not powerful enough. After all, the Yin-Yang transformation was a Dermic seal created by the Heavenly Venerate based on the Jiuxuan's Limitless Sutra and the Heavenly Tao of the Pongsong universe. Su Fong cultivated his own universe and cultivated the Jiuxuan's 9 transformations to the extreme. He obtained the Heavenly Venerate and the true Jiuxuan's Limitless Sutra, touching upon the true essence of the great Tao of cultivation. His understanding of the Yin-Yang transformation had long surpassed what it was in the past. The Yin-Yang transformation he used Su Fong's universe as its origin to demonstrate the true essence of the great Tao. Its power was 100 times or even 10,000 times greater than what it was in the Pongsong universe. Dongxian Jun and Su Fong. One of them used the heavenly Tao's Yin and Yang reversal, while the other used the great Tao of Yin and Yang. How terrifying would the collision of two somewhat similar divine powers be? Rumble. Space and time on the Blood Slaughter platform trembled violently. The Blood Valley was an independent space of its own. At this moment, its laws were also shattered and chaotic. It felt as if the entire space of the Blood Slaughter platform was about to collapse and fall into destruction. Many cultivators trembled with fear, shocked by the two supreme Dermic powers. Boom! The will of the Blood Valley descended and instantly filled the entire space of the Blood Slaughter platform. However, it was not to erase anyone, but to restabilize the space. After about half an hour, everything on the Blood Slaughter platform calmed down. Su Fong and Dongxian Jun stood 100 feet apart. Su Fong's aura seemed to be weak, but he still stood with his head held high, majestic, and unmoving. Dongxian Jun looked unscathed, but he had lost his previous calm and domineering aura. In addition to surprise and shock, there was also a trace of jealousy in his eyes as he looked at Su Fong. Why was this? Su Fong had already displayed his Dermic bodies. In addition to the Blood Evil Dermic body, he also had the Xian Huang, Xian Yang, and Heavenly Tao Dermic body. With the cultivation of the true Tao realm, he possessed 4 Dermic bodies. Furthermore, Each of the dermic bodies possessed the strength to surpass one's cultivation level. Furthermore, they possessed the terrifying strength to surpass two great realms. Dong Xianjun regarded himself as the top genius of the entire Eastern Xian divine realm. When he was at the true Dao realm, he had barely managed to cultivate two dermic bodies. Moreover, the strength of his dermic bodies could not be compared to Su Fang's at this moment. What shocked Dong Xianjun in particular was that Su Fang's yin-yang transformation actually contained a trace of the supreme essence of the great Dao. Daojin cultivators had just stepped into the door of cultivation, but Su Fang had touched upon the true essence of cultivation as soon as he entered the door. How shocking was this? No matter how proud Dong Xianjun was, he had to admit that he was inferior to Su Fang. Dong Xianjun could not accept this conclusion no matter what. In the eyes of a high and mighty genius of the Eastern profound heavenly pavilion, Su Fang, a cultivator from a low-level universe, was an ant, a lowly slave. He, Dong Xianjun, was inferior to an ant, a slave. How could he accept this? Dong Xianjun, you are just an eagle that can fly in the sky. You look down on those sparrows that can only fly in the bushes and forests. However, how can you be so sure that I, Su Fang, am one of those sparrows and not a Kuan Peng that roams the world? You mock us cultivators from low-level universes as frogs at the bottom of a well, lowly slaves. Are you a frog at the bottom of a well yourself? One day, a self-righteous eagle like you will only be a lowly existence in front of a Kuan Peng. Su Fang's words echoed in Dong Xianjun's mind. It was as if an invisible palm had slapped him hard on the face, causing him to feel a burning sensation on his face. Dong Xianjun's mentality immediately changed. If I wait for him to grow, he will definitely be a great talent. How can I, Dong Xianjun, be inferior to an ant? This time, I will kill him at all costs. Humph. Even if you're a Kuan Peng that roams the world, I will break your wings and kill you before I can fly. With this thought boom, an illusory and mysterious aura surged out of Dong Xianjun's body, causing his aura to change drastically. Ordinary cultivators would not be able to see that aura even with their primordial spirits. The many cultivators below the stage could only see that Dong Xianjun seemed to have changed into a different person, but they could not see the specific changes. However, Su Fang could see everything clearly with the help of his purple Fate Dharma body. At this moment, Dong Xianjun was wearing a purple robe. It was not a real purple robe, but a Dharma robe of providence condensed from supreme providence. Purple chi lingered around him, and above his head, it condensed into a seemingly solid canopy. His entire body was filled with supreme providence, as if he was the darling of heaven and earth. Su Fang, this is the first time I have used my Calamity Luck Dharma body since I cultivated it. It is your fortune to be able to die under the power of my Calamity Luck Dharma body. Dong Xianjun's cold and merciless divine will rang in Su Fang's ears and mind. The canopy above Dong Xianjun's head released an illusory purple light that instantly covered the entire space of the blood slaughter arena. It was like a huge umbrella that enveloped Su Fang. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. An aura that contained the power of providence continuously swept towards Su Fang. Su Fang felt as if an endless calamity was about to befall him. This calamity was a type of providence. It was also what people often called a calamity. It was difficult to escape from a calamity, and no one could escape from it. This calamity transformed into an illusory power. Not only did it rob Su Fang of his providence, but also changed the trajectory of his fate, causing him to face endless calamities and disasters. Dong Xianjun's Calamity Luck Dharma body was terrifying. As the saying goes, there are no exceptions. I didn't expect Dong Xianjun's Calamity Luck Dharma body to be almost exactly the same as my Purple Fate Dharma body. What a coincidence! Su Fang was shocked and stunned. What kind of remarkable power is that? It actually makes me feel like a great calamity is about to befall me. QL 11, Calamity Luck Dharma body. The Eastern Profound Heaven Pavilion has a peerless technique that can rob providence. Only an extremely small number of disciples can cultivate it. I didn't expect Dong Xianjun to not only cultivate such a peerless technique, but also the calamity luck dharma body. The Eastern Profound Heaven Pavilion is indeed the strongest power in the Eastern Profound Divine Realm. They actually have such a shocking technique. Once a cultivator's providence is robbed, how terrifying would that be? Su Fong is in trouble now. He's so extraordinary, so he must have supreme providence. Once Dong Xianjun takes his providence, even if a calamity doesn't befall him, he won't be able to achieve anything in the future. Everyone below the arena was shocked and amazed by Dong Xianjun's powerful Dharma body. At the same time, many people realized just how terrifying the Eastern Profound Heaven Pavilion was. Chapter 2744. Dong Xianchan's heart clenched as he asked Dong Xianichen, senior brother Ichen, "Do you think Su Fong can resolve Dong Xianjun's calamity Dharma body?" Dong Xianichen said embarrassedly, "Maybe. Su Fong will have a way." Actually, both of them knew very well that Su Fong was probably doomed this time, but they didn't want to say it out loud. They had long heard of how powerful Dong Xianjun's calamity Dharma body was in the East Profound Heaven Pavilion. Actually, it was because Dong Xianjun had cultivated the calamity Dharma body that he had an extraordinary status in the East Profound Heaven Pavilion, surpassing the other disciples and being highly regarded by the Heaven Pavilion's big shots. Su Fong came from a low-level universe. To be able to reach his current height, it was enough to show that his providence was extraordinary. However, no matter how heaven-defying his providence was, how could he resist Dong Xianjun's calamity Dharma body that counter providence? Hua Tiannu, who also came from a low-level universe, sighed helplessly. This is fate. It's difficult for lowly cultivators like us to defy the heavens. The city lord stroked his beard and laughed loudly. He was very proud and pleased. Dong Xianjun's domineering and arrogant voice rang out. "Su Fong, I gave you a chance, but you didn't cherish it. I once said that you're a frog at the bottom of a well. You can only see the sky as big as a palm. How can you know how vast the world is? You've defied my will, so you'll have to pay a heavy price. Accept your fate." In his opinion, he was certain of his victory and controlled everything on the blood slaughter platform, including Su Fong's life and death. Killing Su Fong was as easy as killing a weak chicken. The power of calamity suddenly increased, enveloping Su Fong as it revolved. "I once said that you, Dong Xianjun, are the real frog at the bottom of a well. You think you're a peerless genius, and no one can compare to you. In fact, you're no different from those self-satisfied clowns. How can you control Su Fong's fate?" Su Fong revealed a domineering smile and made a clanging sound. Immediately, the purple luck Dharma body merged with Su Fong, and supreme providence rose. One was the power of calamity that brought about endless calamities and tribulations. The other was supreme luck. When they collided, a terrifying power that could change the trajectory of fate and even obliterate fate erupted. Boundless purple energy shook. The shackles that were plundering Su Fong's destiny and the power of tribulation were shaken until they shattered layer by layer. The calamity domain released by Dong Xianjun's calamity avatar was also crushed by Su Fong's supreme luck, showing signs of collapse. Impossible. Controlling fate is a supreme technique exclusive to Heaven Pavilion. You are just an ant from a low-level universe. How can you master such a remarkable power? And he even cultivated it into a Dharmakaya? Dong Xianjun seemed to have been hit in the head with a stick. His laughter stopped abruptly, and the complacency on his face froze. The originally quiet space of the blood slaughter arena suddenly boiled over like a pot of boiling water. Cries of shock and alarm rang out, causing the entire arena to explode. Hua Tiannu laughed out loud. Heaven-defying, truly heaven-defying, huh? Dong Xianchan and Dong Xianichen were dumbfounded. Dong Xianchan said, "Senior brother Ichen, don't you think that brother Su Fong is that bad guy Dong Xianjun's nemesis?" Dong Xianjun was stunned. Nemesis? Thinking about it carefully, that was indeed the case. Dong Xinjun had cultivated an extraordinary blood slaughter avatar with more than 60 slaughter marks. Few people in the blood slaughter arena could be his match. However, Su Fong had cultivated more than 70 slaughter marks, surpassing Dong Xinjun and suppressing him. Dong Xinjun had the 5-element sword body, and Su Fong happened to have an avatar that could use the 6 elements' divine powers. Dong Xinjun's divine punishment avatar was restrained by Su Fong's avatar. At this moment, his calamity avatar thought it was unparalleled and looked down on everything. Who knew? Su Fong also had a similar avatar, and it seemed to be even more powerful than Dong Xinjun's calamity avatar. If that wasn't his nemesis, then what was? Now that Dong Xinjun has such a nemesis, let's see how he can still be arrogant. Even if he survives, his reputation will plummet. When he returns to Dongxian Heaven Pavilion, he won't be valued as much as before. By then, Dong Xinjun, who has lost his power, won't be able to break us up. Dong Xianichan's eyes were bright, and he didn't let go of Dong Xianichan's hand. Dong Xianichan's face was red, but her eyes were shining brightly. Su Fong, if I don't get rid of this person, he will become my greatest enemy in the future. If I fail this time, all my glory will be gone. He will step on my head and soar into the sky. Never. Dong Xinjun was shocked, but he also realized that things had become very serious. Although he had overestimated Su Fong, he now realized that he had been underestimating Su Fong all this time. Just like Su Fong said, he was the eagle that looked down on the earth, and Su Fong was the rock that galloped across heaven and earth. At this moment, the pride and confidence in Dong Xinjun's heart began to shatter and collapse. I am indeed inferior to you, but there is one thing that you will never be able to beat me. I am from Dongxian Heaven Pavilion, and you are a lowly ant from a low-level universe. My calamity luck dharma body can not only cast tribulations, but can also connect with the entire Eastern Xian divine domain's providence and receive the support of supreme providence. Although I will lose some providence by doing this, as long as I can kill Su Fong, everything will be worth it. Dong Xinjun stared at Su Fong, viciousness and determination flashing in his eyes, and even a hint of madness. Sizzle. In less than 10 breaths, Dong Xinjun's providence had completely disappeared. However, his entire person seemed to have merged with the world, as if all the providence of the entire Jushuan divine domain had gathered on him. Why, since the other day was right. Dong Xinjun's providence is connected with the Eastern Xian divine domain's providence and can receive the support of providence. Right now, I am fighting against the entire Eastern Xian divine domain's providence. Su Fong's brows were tightly knitted together, his eyes filled with solemnity. No matter how heaven-defying a person's providence was, it could not compete with the providence of the entire Eastern Xian divine domain. In the end, he would only be crushed. What should I do? Su Fong was burning with anxiety. He hurriedly used the Heaven's Divination unraveling technique and the Heaven's Secret Life shrinking technique, trying to deduce a chance of survival from this hopeless situation. We have been entangled for too long. It's time to end this. Dong Xinjun regained his usual domineering aura and looked disdainfully at Su Fong. Then, with a shake of his arms, an invisible force of providence rolled out from the void. The purple energy surrounding Su Fong's purple fate dharma body was unable to resist the terrifying pressure and collapsed upon contact. Then, his dharma body began to shatter. The purple meridians in his body also began to break. Su Fong's Tao heart, will, and origin soul were also impacted and suppressed by the power of calamity. They trembled and were on the verge of collapse. Dong Xinjun was also under immense pressure. His calamity body could connect with the providence of the Eastern Xian divine domain and borrow the providence of the entire divine domain to crush everything. However, compared to the entire Eastern Xian divine domain, Dong Xinjun's individual strength was still too insignificant. It was difficult for him to bear the vast providence of the divine domain. However, compared to Su Fong, Dong Xinjun was much more relaxed. Seeing Su Fong's dharma body continuously shatter, Dong Xinjun's eyes were filled with pride and madness. Although the people below the bloody slaughter arena could not see what was happening, they could still sense the boundless providence of the divine domain. At the same time, they could also see that the situation on the bloody slaughter arena had reversed in an instant. Once again, waves of exclamations and shock rang out. The city lord laughed without restraint. Su Fong, let's see how you defy the heavens this time. Dong Xianchan and Dong Xianichin seemed to be sealed in ice. From their souls to their bodies, they were immersed in the cold. This was too unexpected. It was completely beyond everyone's expectations. No one had expected Dong Xianjun's true strength to be so terrifying that he could draw upon the providence of the entire Eastern Xian divine domain. Puff, 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 Su Fang's purple fate Dharma body continued to shatter. He had no choice but to release the purple fate Dharma spirit from his heavenly path Dharma body and merge it with his purple fate Dharma body to delay its rapid shattering. However, it could only delay it, not stop it. At most, it could last for half an incense stick's worth of time before it was crushed into powder by the providence of the Eastern Xian divine domain. Buzz. Inside Su Fang's Jiushuan Dao Palace, the heavenly fate shrinking art and the heavenly divination scripture suddenly flashed together and formed a scroll. This scroll was the chance that Su Fang had found in a hopeless situation by using the heavenly fate shrinking art and the heavenly divination scripture to deduce fate and heavenly fate. Within the scroll, a purple light bloomed, enveloping a blade. It wasn't a real blade, but a blade of life formed by the heavenly fate shrinking art's Dao aura. The blade of life. Su Fang was stunned, but in the next moment he was in high spirits. In the end, luck and providence were also a type of fate. Whether it was the tribulation unleashed by Dong Xian Jun's calamity Dharma body or the providence of the Eastern Xian divine domain, they all belonged to the category of fate. And Su Fang just so happened to have a supreme ability that countered fate, will, and faith. The heavenly fate shrinking art. The blade of life can sever the karmic ties of fate. However, Dong Xianjun possesses supreme providence and is currently connected to the Eastern Xian divine domain's providence. If I directly use the blade of life to target Dong Xianjun's fate, even if I kill him, I will have to pay a huge price. I might even use up all my lifespan. But why should I go and directly kill his fate? Dong Xianjun was able to crush my purple fate Dharma body and even his calamity Dharma body because of the Eastern Xian divine domain's providence. I only need to sever the connection between him and the Eastern Xian divine domain's providence, and his attack will collapse on its own. Su Fang was in high spirits when he thought of this. The Dao aura from the heavenly fate shrinking art appeared in the Jiushuan Dao Palace and the various Dharma bodies. An illusory power that could defy the heavens and change fate emanated from Su Fang's body. Screech! The Dao aura shot out of Su Fang's forehead and quickly formed an ethereal blade. The blade of life. This blade existed in the unseen world of fate and was not limited by time or space. No ability or thought could stop it. Chapter 2745. Although the blade did not radiate much light, when it landed on Dong Xianjun's body, it was like a blade of fire cutting through ice and snow. ZZZT, ZZZT, ZZZT. The connection between Dong Xianjun and the Eastern profound divine realm was forcefully severed by the blade of fate. The terrifying pressure of fate that enveloped Su Fang receded like the tide in an instant. In the blink of an eye, it was completely gone. Dong Xianjun still maintained that domineering posture of controlling everything, but his face seemed to be sealed in ice, becoming extremely stiff. His eyes were filled with shock, disbelief, and then blankness. He felt as if he was enjoying himself on a peerless beauty, but she had suddenly turned into a rotten corpse that emitted a foul stench. He felt as if he was floating high in the clouds, high above, and suddenly fell into the dust on the ground. Without the support of the Eastern profound divine realm's providence, Dong Xianjun fell from the clouds to the mortal world. Below the bloody slaughter arena, the city lord's wild laughter was still echoing. Dong Xianchan, Dong Xianichin, Huo Tiannu, and the other cultivators who were worried about Su Fang didn't know that the situation on the Bloody Slaughter Arena had been reversed by Su Fong in a flash. Their eyes were still filled with despair. A dozen breaths later, only then did they realize that something was wrong on the arena. Then, they sensed that the boundless providence of the Eastern profound divine realm had also disappeared. Even the city lord realized that something was wrong, and his laughter came to an abrupt end. "What happened?" QL11 asked. Everyone looked at each other, confused. Puffed. Dongxian Jun's body swayed, and he spat out a mouthful of essence blood. His face turned as white as paper, and he looked as if his soul had been sucked out of his body. His spirit also became weak. The domineering aura of a ruler that controlled everything from before was now gone. That blade of fate had not only severed the connection between Dongxian Jun and the Eastern profound divine realm's providence, but also caused his supreme providence to become water without a source. His avatar of calamity was also damaged. Moreover, the power of the blade of fate made it very difficult for his providence and avatar to recover. At the same time, the blade of fate had also shattered Dongxian Jun's arrogance and strong confidence that looked down on everything. When had such a peerless genius ever suffered such a setback? Moreover, this time, he had lost to a low-level cultivator whom he regarded as an ant and a slave. One could imagine the blow to Dongxian Jun. At this moment, Su Fong had become a nightmare in Dongxian Jundao's heart that he could not get rid of. "Dongxian Jun, do you have anything else to say?" Su Fong stared at Dongxian Jun and asked indifferently. "I have nothing to say about being defeated by you." Dongxian Jun had completely lost his will to fight. At this moment, he was disheartened. Although he still had a powerful avatar that he had yet to use, he no longer had the will to continue fighting. Whoosh! It was only then that the crowd understood that Dongxian Jun had lost, and that he had lost completely. Shock, amazement, disbelief, all sorts of voices gathered together, turning into an uproar that reverberated through the space of the blood slaughter arena. Hua Tianyu laughed loudly. "This is heaven-defying. This time, Su Fong has really defied the heavens. With his strength and ability, Su Fong has proven that we, cultivators from low-level universes, are not slaves abandoned by the heavens. We can also step on the heads of peerless geniuses and shine with unparalleled brilliance." Dongxian Chen and Dongxian Chan also looked at each other and smiled, in high spirits. The city lord slumped on his throne like a deflated balloon, his heart filled with despair. Su Fong said casually, "I, Su Fong, am not a ruthless person. Seeing that your cultivation is not easy and that you are a peerless genius of Heaven Pavilion, I will not make things difficult for you. You may leave." Dongxian Jun was stunned. "I wanted to kill you, but you let me go?" Su Fong sneered disdainfully. "Can you kill me? If you don't leave now, I will change my mind." "Su Fong, today's hatred will be returned." Dongxian Jun looked deeply at Su Fong, then passed through the barrier and left the blood slaughter arena. The city lord greeted him. "Young Master Dongxian Jun, let's go." Dongxian Jun felt the strange gazes of the crowd on him, as if needles were pricking his heart. He did not want to stay a moment longer, and quickly left the blood slaughter arena through the celestial gate with the city lord. Why did Su Fong let Dongxian Jun go? This shows that Su Fongda is magnanimous and did not lower himself to Dongxian Jun's level. If Su Fong killed Dongxian Jun, how could the experts of East Profound Heaven Pavilion sit by and do nothing? By then, even if he is listed on the Heavenly Profound ranking, the experts of Heaven Pavilion will have ways to circumvent the laws of Jiushuan and kill him. Letting Dongxian Jun go was the wisest decision. Another round of discussion broke out. Some were puzzled by Su Fong's actions, while others praised Su Fong for his scheming. What no one expected was that while they were discussing, a voice suddenly appeared. Puffed. Su Fong withdrew his purple fate avatar into the Dao Palace of the Jiushuan. Then he suddenly staggered and fell to the ground, spitting out a mouthful of blood. His hair turned from jet black to gray-white at a speed visible to the naked eye, and finally to a head of white hair. His appearance was also rapidly aging. From a 17 or 18-year-old youth, he had turned into an old man in his 60s. Su Fong had paid a heavy price for using the Heaven's secret life shrinking technique this time. After all, he had severed the connection between the Eastern profound divine realm and Dong Xianjun's providence. The price of his lifespan was astonishing, and although he did not die, it was extremely heavy. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. Everyone looked at Su Fong in shock, surprise, and confusion. Then, they began to secretly communicate with each other through their divine senses. So it wasn't that Su Fong didn't want to kill Dong Xianjun, but that he was heavily injured in order to defeat Dong Xianjun. He had to pretend that he was fine and scare Dong Xianjun away. This person's ability and scheming are unfathomable. It looks like the battle between Su Fong and Dong Xianjun just now was won by Dong Xianjun, but Dong Xianjun was scared away. Su Fong is only in the Daojian realm, but what kind of cultivation base does Dong Xianjun have? There's a huge gap between the two. Naturally, Su Fong won, and it was a complete victory. From today onwards, Su Fong will rise like the sun, his brilliance soaring, and his name will shake Dongxian. That's right. It's a great fortune for us to be able to witness the rise of a peerless genius. As the crowd was discussing, crimson light descended from the crimson star above the sanguine slaughter arena, cleansing Su Fong's crimson blood avatar. Only then did the crowd realize that Su Fong's victory over Dong Xianjun was exactly the 99th victory. This meant that with another victory, Su Fong would win 100 battles. At the same time, it also meant that he had won a great victory by challenging the second strongest city, Sanguine Slaughter City, alone. If I challenge Su Fong now, will my name be known throughout Dongxian? Opportunity. This is an opportunity that's hard to come by even in a billion years. When some cultivators thought of this, their gazes towards Su Fong were filled with greed and murderous intent. This was the Blood Valley. Almost everyone's consciousness was affected by the Blood Valley's aura, turning them bloodthirsty and crazy. Now that the opportunity to become famous was right in front of them, who wouldn't be tempted? Dong Xianchen and Dong Xianchan saw through the crowd's thoughts and panicked, but they couldn't stop them. At this moment, Hua Tianyu suddenly let out a cold laugh. A bunch of cowardly yet greedy idiots. Which one of you can be sure that Su Fong isn't doing the same as before and is planning to lure and kill those cultivators who want to take advantage of the situation? Whoever wants to be Su Fong's stepping stone to the pinnacle, go ahead and try. The restless cultivators felt like they were being trampled on by icy water, shivering in fear. Hua Tianyu was right. Who dared to say that Su Fong wasn't faking it this time? Even if Su Fongjian was in a heavily injured state, who dared to say that he didn't have any trump cards up his sleeve? The desire in the cultivators' hearts was instantly extinguished. Su Fong finished cleansing his marrow with the aura of blood, and another slash mark condensed on his body. His gaze passed through the barrier around the blood slaughter arena and swept across the cultivators. Then he said coldly, "Who wants to challenge the last match?" He asked 3 times, but no one answered. If no one challenged, the Blood Valleys would randomly choose from the trial takers in Second Sanguine Slaughter City. Any 1-star Sanguine Slaughter general who hadn't fought Su Fong before had a chance to fight the last match with Su Fong. When everyone thought that no one dared to accept the challenge, an indifferent voice suddenly came from a corner of the blood slaughter arena. "Su Fong, I challenge you." Who is this person? Everyone's attention was focused on the challenger. The man's face was covered with a mask, but the strange thing was that the mask had no facial features, like a blank sheet of paper. This person's aura was illusory, making it impossible to sense. However, judging from the blood armor on his body, he was a newbie who had just entered Second Sanguine Slaughter City. No one knew where this strange person came from, but at this moment, he stood up and challenged Su Fong. Under everyone's watchful eyes, the faceless man calmly walked to the bottom of the blood slaughter arena, then jumped onto the blood slaughter arena and landed 100 feet away from Su Fong. Su Fong used his great perfection ability to sense this person, but he couldn't sense his depth. He was unfathomable. However, Su Fong had a strange feeling. This person seemed to have a fate connection with him, and it wasn't an ordinary connection. Therefore, Su Fong used the Heaven's secret life shrinking technique to sense this person's fate aura. Although he was seriously injured at this time and had consumed more than half of his lifespan, he could still use the Heaven's secret life shrinking technique to sense the fate aura. Buzz, buzz, buzz. Tao runes from the Heaven's secret life shrinking technique suddenly gushed out from the depths of the Jiuquan Tao Palace. The fate aura he sensed was still very vague, but from some of the Tao runes, he found a very familiar aura. Then, some of the Tao runes miraculously fused together, turning into a phantom. The phantom was still very vague, not as clear as when Su Fong could sense the fate aura of other cultivators. However, Su Fong could still determine who this aura came from. Celestial Venerate. The supreme ruler of Pan Song Universe. Celestial Venerate Pan Song. Chapter 2746. Unexpectedly, Su Fong never expected to meet the heavenly venerable Pan Song on the Blood Massacre platform. Of course, it was not the heavenly venerable's heavenly Tao body, but a Dharma body that even Su Fong could not figure out. It was currently using the Blood Fury Dharma body as a shell. However, the life-shrinking technique's ability to sense fate was definitely not wrong. Su Fong was certain that this person was indeed the heavenly venerable. It was not strange. With the heavenly venerable Pan Song's cunning personality, he would definitely leave a way out for himself. It was not strange for him to leave a Dharma body in the Eastern Xian divine realm. It seems that you have recognized me. The faceless man nodded at Su Fong and transmitted his primordial spirit's voice. His faceless face did not have any expression. It was extremely strange. Su Fong quickly regained his composure. You indeed left a Dharma body in the Eastern Xian divine realm. The heavenly venerable replied indifferently. Then you must also know the purpose of my visit. Apart from your evil intentions and wanting to possess me, what other purpose do you have? Su Fong sneered and mocked the heavenly venerable. The heavenly venerable nodded and said, That's right. I specially came to the Blood Valley to take back everything that belongs to me. Everything that belongs to you? A fierce aura surged in Su Fong's heart. In the eyes of the heavenly venerable Pan Song, Su Fong was his property. Everything that Su Fong had belonged to him, and he could take whatever he wanted. Su Fong sneered. Even now, you still haven't given up your evil intentions. I can transcend the Pan Song universe and cut off your control of fate. Now that I have no karma with you, how can your wishful thinking succeed? You are a chess piece nurtured by this heavenly lord. This is fate and also your personal destiny. You are just a Tao truth cultivator who has grasped some superficial knowledge of the heavenly secret life shrinking technique. How can you escape from my control? The heavenly venerable laughed coldly, making Su Fong's hair stand on end. He continued, Although you have severed the fate karma line between you and my heavenly Tao avatar, why can't I replant karma and reconnect the fate line? Furthermore, this Empyrean has already planted a seed of karma in your fate. This time, I'm here to reap the harvest. You planted the karma long ago. Su Fong's heart suddenly sank. He had a bad premonition. The sky's sovereign smiled complacently. You shouldn't have forgotten that in the heaven-abandoned desolate region, when the expert from the three highest profound sects wanted to kill you, why did they suddenly give up on killing you and flee? Su Fong was suddenly enlightened. So it was you who did it in the dark. You're not that stupid. By saving you, this celestial venerable has planted a seed of karma in your fate. Between you and me, the karma of fate has been renewed. Such a remarkable ability comes from the heaven's secret life shrinking technique. Although you have also cultivated the heaven's secret life shrinking technique, you have only grasped a little of it. Naturally, you were unable to detect it, let alone escape. Originally, this celestial venerable had planned to wait for the karma to be deeper before reaping the karma. Who knew that the experts from the three highest profound sects had been guarding the space where you entered the Blood Valley? They were waiting for you to leave before suppressing you. This celestial venerable could only personally enter the Blood Valley to reap the karma in advance. Although the karma is not deep enough, it doesn't matter. You fought with the Heaven Pavilion genius and used the Heaven's secret life shrinking technique to consume more than half of your lifespan. Now, you're already a weak chicken waiting to be slaughtered. This celestial venerable can suppress you without any effort. The heavenly venerable Pan Song spoke unhurriedly, as if victory was in his grasp. Su Fong smiled casually and asked, "Are you that confident? You seem to be confident and can deceive everyone. But how can you deceive this celestial venerable? This celestial venerable knows the consequences of using the heaven's secret life shrinking technique better than anyone else." The celestial venerable Pan Song smiled silently, very pleased with himself. It's really not easy. Ever since I cultivated the Jiuxuan's Wuji scripture, this celestial venerable Pan Song was possessed by the evil god. Not only did my physical body fall, even my Heaven's Path avatar was about to be destroyed. Only this destiny avatar was left. With the help of the Heaven's secret life shrinking technique's supreme power to isolate fate, I was lucky enough to survive. However, it was difficult to escape the fate of death sooner or later. I didn't expect that heaven would always leave a way out. I didn't expect that a ray of hope would appear. You are this celestial venerable Pan Song's chance to continue living. As long as I devour you, not only can this celestial venerable Pan Song start over, but I will also have a limitless future. It's not impossible for me to even become the overlord of Dongxian. The celestial venerable Pan Song was extremely pleased. His face was facing Su Fong. Although there were no pupils, Su Fong felt like he was being stared at by a venomous snake, and he was the trembling frog. The audience below the stage could not figure out the origin of celestial venerable Pan Song. After he went up the stage, he did not clash with Su Fong. They were all baffled. That faceless man is very strange. I wonder where he came from. Will Su Fong be all right? Dongxian Chan was worried. She had already sensed extreme danger from celestial venerable Pan Song. Dongxian Chen smiled and said, "It's all right. Su Fong has been through a lot. How can that cowardly scoundrel be a threat to Su Fong? Him going up the Sanguine Massacre Arena is only giving Su Fong a victory." He would never have thought that the danger Su Fong was facing now was 10 times more dangerous than when he was fighting with Dongxian Junwush. An ethereal air spread out from celestial venerable Pan Song's head and enveloped Su Fong instantly. This was not an ordinary air. Su Fong was very familiar with it. It came from a Tao scripture of the heaven's secret life shrinking technique. The Tao scripture's air quickly permeated Su Fong's fate. Su Fong could sense that something hidden deep in fate was rapidly condensing. That was the cause that celestial venerable Pan Song had planted when he saved Su Fong from executioner grandma. Now, the celestial venerable had used the heaven's secret life shrinking technique to condense it into an effect in fate. Celestial venerable Pan Song used the heaven's secret life shrinking technique to control karma and Su Fong's fate. Although Su Fong had also mastered the heaven's secret life shrinking technique, he had used up more than half of his life force when he was fighting with Dongxian Jun. He no longer had the strength to use it now. Even if he was at his peak, the heaven's secret life shrinking technique he had mastered was far inferior to celestial venerable Pan Song. At most, he could only make a final struggle and could not change his fate. The heaven's secret life shrinking technique from the Destiny platform is indeed extraordinary. It can help me change my fate and control the fate of others, the celestial venerable sighed. At the same time, he was extremely proud. Then, Tao scripture gushed out from his glabella. The mysterious air quickly condensed into an ethereal thread. Life-pulling karma thread. Celestial venerable Pan Song had actually used the supreme ability to control fate. Life-pulling karma thread. Chi. The life-pulling karma thread went straight for Su Fong and entered Su Fong's body in an instant. It connected with Su Fong's ethereal fate and firmly tied his fate. Fate was about to be controlled, and everything was about to be taken away. However, Su Fong looked at the celestial venerable with a gaze that was like an ancient well. It was abnormally calm, without a trace of ripple. The celestial venerable asked in surprise. All your efforts will help me. Why are you not afraid at all? Su Fang's voice was cold and embarrassed. You can't take away everything that belongs to me. Why should I be afraid? A trace of doubt appeared in the celestial venerable's heart. The more cunning and scheming a person was, the more suspicious they would be. Celestial venerable Pansong was naturally no exception. You're about to die, and you're still putting on an act. Do you think you can scare me off like this? Celestial venerable Pansong could not see any clues from Su Fang's body. He sneered disdainfully. Buzz, buzz, buzz. Celestial venerable Pansong activated the life-shrinking technique. The life-pulling karma thread that connected Su Fang's fate began to tremble. At this moment, Su Fang was like a puppet. His fate and everything connected to it were about to be controlled by Celestial Venerable Pansong's karma thread. Suddenly, Su Fang looked at the Celestial Venerable with a mocking gaze. It was as if he was looking at a prey that had fallen into a trap. The Celestial Venerable was stunned, but he did not understand. At this moment, a strange power. It was not an ordinary power, nor did it come from the life-shrinking technique. Instead, it was a power that devoured and corrupted fate. It quickly infiltrated and infected the life-pulling karma thread. That was not all. That power also extended rapidly along the life-pulling karma thread, all the way to Celestial Venerable Pansong's fate. In an instant, the Celestial Venerable felt that his fate was flowing rapidly along the life-pulling karma thread. Moreover, that power of fate was rapidly seeping into his fate. It was like a drop of thick ink had suddenly dripped into a pool of clear water. It spread wantonly and dyed the entire pool pitch black. Celestial Venerable Pansong was also a person with great fate. His fate was incomparably thick. At this moment, his fate was contaminated by that power, instantly turning into misfortune and disaster. An ominous feeling of being unable to escape a calamity and impending disaster instantly filled the Celestial Venerable's heart and enveloped his fate. Life-pulling spider. It turned out that Su Fang had used the life-pulling spider's ability to devour and corrupt Celestial Venerable Pansong's fate at the critical moment. Fate was also a type of fate. The life-pulling spider's ability was to devour fate and bring about disaster and misfortune. Celestial Venerable Pansong was also unlucky. With the power of his destiny dharma body and the life-pulling spider's young age, if it had attacked the Celestial Venerable directly, he could have easily used the life-shrinking technique to resolve it. Instead, he used the life-shrinking technique to control Su Fang with the life-pulling karma thread. It was equivalent to using his own fate to control Su Fang's fate. The life-pulling spider's power directly corroded his fate, catching him off guard. Not only was his fate devoured by the life-pulling spider, but his entire fate was also contaminated by the life-pulling spider's power. The life-pulling spider's power immediately began to take effect on the Celestial Venerable's body. The strange and terrifying aura of sickness, death, and misfortune caused his blood-killing dharma body to begin to crumble, layer by layer. Even his destiny dharma body was rapidly weakening due to the devouring and contamination of his fate. Damn it, what kind of strange power is that? Your purple fate dharma body can't possibly have such power. What is that, despicable brat? How dare you trick me? Chapter 2747. The Celestial Lord Pansong originally thought that he could easily suppress Su Fang this time, and then possess him, completely escaping the crisis of the evil god's descent. Who knew? In the end, he was schemed against by Su Fang. Not only did he fail to control Su Fang, but he was also devoured and infected. Not only did he lose his fortune, but he was also suffering from bad luck. How could he not be shocked and angry? Life-severing blade, severing fate. No matter how angry he was, he had to save his life first. The Celestial Lord Pansong hurriedly activated the life-shrinking technique and used the life-severing blade. The life-severing blade, condensed from Tao runes, fell, severing the life-pulling karma line he had personally created. Puff! Puff, puff. It was equivalent to this blade slashing at the celestial lord himself. He paid a heavy price because of this. The blood fiend Dharma body shattered and turned into ashes, revealing the Destiny Dharma body. The Destiny Dharma body also showed signs of shattering, and its aura became dispirited. However, he had finally escaped from the Lux Spider's terrifying devouring of his fortune. It was a blessing in disguise. The lost fortune would be difficult to recover in a short period of time. Moreover, the Celestial Lord's fortune had been infected by bad luck. He would definitely be plagued by bad luck in the future. "I'll kill you." The Celestial Lord let out a thunderous roar and displayed the terrifying power of fate, about to kill Su Fong. "Kill me? Do you still have that ability?" QL11, Su Fong scoffed at the Celestial Lord's words. Immediately, a light shadow appeared on his face, transforming into the phantom of a spider. It was the Lux Spider. The Celestial Lord sensed the aura emitted by the Lux Spider, and his divine light instantly changed. If it was before, with the strength of his heavenly fate Dharma body, he would not be afraid of the young Lux Spider. However, at this moment, not only did he suffer the backlash of the life-shrinking technique, but he was also seriously injured and had bad luck. How could he be a match for the Lux Spider? Su Fong was now a great calamity. Anyone who provoked him would be met with disaster. Even the Celestial Lord Pan Song was no exception. "Su Fong, I won't let you go." The Celestial Lord gritted his teeth. However, no matter how angry he was, he didn't dare to stay any longer. His Destiny Dharma body flashed and disappeared from the blood slaughter arena without a trace. This was the power of the heavenly mandate avatar. It existed in the ethereal fate and could travel through time and space at will. No restriction or enchantment could stop it. Even the Blood Valley could not shackle it. "You won't let me off?" How come I Su Fong let you off? Once I leave Blood Valley, I'll go to ancient Blue City to kill you and eliminate all future troubles." Su Fong kept the spider and looked at the spot where Pan Song had disappeared. His eyes flashed with a domineering light. The Sky Sovereign's escape meant that Su Fong had won 100 battles. At the same time, they had also obtained a complete victory in the battle to suppress the city. Although Su Fong was in a weak state at the moment and had white hair, he was in high spirits. A strong confidence and a lofty feeling of sweeping away all obstacles spontaneously arose in his heart. "Winning 100 battles means that I will obtain the Blood Slaughter token and be directly listed on the Heavenly Profound ranking. I will be protected by part of the Jiushuan heavenly laws. Even the experts from the 3 supreme mysterious sects won't be able to touch me." Thinking of the benefits he was about to obtain, Su Fong was very happy. Whoosh, a bloody light descended from the sky above the blood slaughter arena and enveloped Su Fong's body, cleansing his blood evil Dharma body. "It's over?" Su Fong won. The many cultivators below couldn't see anything from the battle between Su Fong and the Celestial Lord Pan Song. They didn't know how dangerous and intense it was. It wasn't until Su Fong had his marrow cleansed that the crowd woke up from their dream and realized that Su Fong had won. He suppressed the entire city by himself. What kind of peerless genius is this? Winning 100 battles has only happened once in the history of the second Slaughter Star City. Moreover, Su Fong has cultivated more slaughter marks than the previous peerless genius. It's a miracle. A true Dao realm cultivator from the heaven-forsaken slave clan of a low-level universe has such extraordinary strength and ability. It's rare to see such a peerless genius in the entire Eastern Xian divine realm. Su Fong will obtain the Blood Slaughter token and be directly listed on the Heavenly Profound ranking. From now on, he will rise and shine brightly. In the space of the Blood Slaughter arena, there was a burst of exclamations and shock. Everyone's eyes were focused on Su Fong. There was shock, surprise, and even more respect in their eyes. Who said that cultivators from low-level universes are lowly slaves of the heaven-forsaken slave clan and should be bullied and humiliated? Hua Tianyu laughed loudly and was incomparably pleased. Dong Xianichen sighed helplessly and said, "This guy is simply not human. Compared to him, The two of us from the Heaven Pavilion are simply trash. Fortunately, he's our friend and not our enemy. Dongxian Chan looked smug. Isn't it all thanks to me? If I hadn't pitted him when I met him in the black market and bought his blood slaughter pill, you might have had a conflict on the blood slaughter arena. Not only would you not be friends, but you might even be as miserable as that bad guy Dongxian Jun. That's why I said that you're my lucky star. Dongxian Ichin smiled and hugged Dongxian Chan tightly. Second Slaughter Star City, City Lord Mansion. Su Fong. Dongxian Jun clenched his right fist, and the rune in his hand instantly turned into a wisp of smoke. His eyes burned with anger and humiliation. This time, Su Fong was stepping on his head and rising against the heavens. In the future, whenever someone mentioned Su Fong, they would mention Dongxian Jun and compare him to Su Fong. Thinking of this, Dongxian Jun's Dao heart trembled and showed signs of shattering. Blood Slaughter Arena. Su Fong was cleansed by the blood slaughter aura. After another incense stick of time, there was no more movement from the blood red star in the sky. What's going on? Why hasn't the blood slaughter token appeared? The shock and exclamations below the arena gradually subsided. Everyone looked at the blood red star in shock. Did something unexpected happen? Su Fong's eyebrows furrowed, realizing that something was wrong. Because Dongxian Chan had cheated, the will of Blood Valley had descended. Fortunately, Shi Xiandaozu had acted to resolve this. Moreover, in the last battle with the Empyrean, Su Fong had released the spider, so it definitely couldn't have escaped the notice of Blood Valley's will. It was only because it was afraid of Shi Xiandaozu that it didn't descend again. Thus, Su Fong's 100 victories definitely wouldn't be recognized by Blood Valley's will. Naturally, it wouldn't give him the blood slaughter token. Wong. The space of the blood slaughter arena began to shake. This meant that the space was about to close. No blood slaughter token has appeared. Before, Dongxian Yichun and Dongxian Chan cheated and gave Su Fong 2 matches for free. Hua Tianu's match also counted. Moreover, the City Lord gave Su Fong 20 matches for free. Thus, Su Fong's 100 victories weren't recognized by Blood Valley's will. The City Lord and Dongxian Jun tried to kill Su Fong with masters. So why didn't Blood Valley's will come and punish them? This is unfair. Everyone discussed spiritedly. Finally, they left the blood slaughter arena through the profound door, their hearts filled with confusion. After everyone left, Su Fong looked up at the blood-red star in the sky above the blood slaughter arena, his eyes filled with anger and determination. So what if I'm not recognized by you? I, Su Fong, can also defy the heavens with my own strength. No one can stop me, so why do I need your recognition? He staggered forward, about to leave. Suddenly, Shi Xiandaozu's illusory figure flashed out of Su Fong's body and floated above the blood slaughter arena. Su Fong sensed something and asked in surprise, "Master, what are you doing?" How can this ancestor's disciple be wronged in the slightest? Your performance on the blood slaughter arena was recognized by even this seat. What is that Blood Valley's will? How dare it not recognize you? Shi Xiandaozu said casually, a domineering aura that looked down on everything arising spontaneously. Then, Shi Xiandaozu grabbed at the blood-red star in the sky. This ancestor is here. Get out here for this ancestor. Buzz. The blood-red star trembled and its light dimmed, as if it was about to shatter. Whoosh, a blood-red light flashed out of the blood-red star and turned into a human-shaped blood-red shadow. It landed in front of Shi Xiandaozu, staggered, and knelt down in the air to kowtow to Shi Xiandaozu. This figure was the manifestation of Blood Valley's will. A mere world spirit dares to humiliate this ancestor's disciple? Shi Xiandaozu stood with his hands behind his back and said majestically, "The shadow formed by Blood Valley's will trembled. This person violated the rules of Blood Valley's trial. He should have been killed. The second city lord of Star Slaughter City and the disciple of Heaven Pavilion violated the rules of Blood Valley first. Why didn't you kill them? Do you think this ancestor's disciple is easy to bully?" Shi Xiandaozu snorted. His tone was arrogant and domineering, but no one could disobey him. Blood Valley's will trembled and almost collapsed. He hurriedly said, "My lord, this ancestor has never been partial to my disciples, but no one can bully my disciples. What Su Fong deserves, he won't be left out. What he doesn't deserve, this ancestor won't take more for him. But, my lord, the rules of Blood Valley, do you dare to disobey this ancestor's will? Or do you think this ancestor does not dare to kill you? Humph! Even if this ancestor erases the entire Blood Valley, that old bastard Dong Xindaozu will not dare to say no to this ancestor, let alone you, a mere world spirit. What bullsh asterisk T Blood Valley's rules? This ancestor personally participated in the creation of Jioshuan's heavenly laws. Are they not greater than Blood Valley's rules? Yes, my lord. Blood Valley's will was suppressed to the point of collapse. How could it dare to disobey? The shadow reached out and grabbed. Wisps of bloody aura quickly gathered in his hand and finally condensed into a blood-colored token. Experiencer Su Fong has won 100 battles. He is awarded the blood-killing token. The shadow rolled the token to Su Fong. Su Fong grabbed it and sensed it. He saw that it was covered with blood patterns that intertwined to form a powerful boundary. It contained the supreme power of Blood Valley's will. With this blood-killing token, it was equivalent to having a part of the power of Blood Valley. At the same time, it would trigger Jioshuan's heavenly laws and make it directly onto the heavenly Xian list. Get lost. Xian Daozu waved his long sleeve. The shadow of Blood Valleys was swept away and disappeared into the blood-colored formation. Chapter 2748. He had finally obtained the blood-killing token. Su Fong absorbed the blood-killing token into the Jioshuan Dao Palace and was very happy. It's different to have a powerful master. Even the will of the Blood Valley had to submit to him. In front of great power, any rule is just a piece of paper. Those rules and laws can only restrain the weak. Su Fong now had a deeper understanding of the law of the jungle. Su Fong was shocked by Dao ancestor Shi Xian's domineering strength, but at the same time, he was also fascinated. No rule can restrain the strong. In front of the will of the strong, even rules have to give way. There will be a day when I can also become a strong master like my master. Su Fong's eyes were burning. Whoosh from the blood-red star above the blood-killing platform. Another wave of fiendish blood aura descended and enveloped Su Fong. This wave of fiendish blood aura was purer and more advanced than the fiendish blood aura from before. It sizzled and seeped into Su Fong's blood armor. In the previous series of battles, Su Fong's blood fiend doppelganger had been seriously injured and was covered in cracks and fragments. After absorbing this wave of fiendish blood aura, the blood armor recovered at an astonishing speed, and the cracks and holes on it began to heal. Not only that, there were now 74 Slayer marks on the killing star pattern. Because the blood fiend doppelganger had been seriously injured, the Slayer marks were dim and some were even broken. After absorbing a large amount of pure fiendish blood aura, the 74 Slayer marks quickly became full and contained a majestic killing aura. Chi chi chi. When the blood armor and Slayer marks recovered, the fiendish blood aura from the blood-red star continued to be absorbed by the blood fiend doppelganger. When the absorption reached its limit, the star of slaughter pattern shuddered, and new slash marks appeared on its surface. Moreover, it wasn't just one, nor two, but 7. At this time, there were 81 Slayer marks on Su Fong's blood armor. Is this a reward for obtaining the blood-killing token, or is the will of the Blood Valley intentionally giving me extra benefits to deter my master? Su Fong could not understand. There was no need for him to find out the reason. He would just silently make a fortune. The more slaughter marks one had, the stronger the Blood Fury Dharma body would be. Su Fong currently had 81 slaughter marks. Su Fong estimated that this was already the limit that a 1-star divine blood kill general could reach. With such a powerful blood evil Dharma body, no one could stop Su Fong in the first killer city. Moreover, he also had the blood killing token, which allowed him to control a certain amount of the Blood Valley's will. The blood armor's transformation wasn't over yet. The part of the blood armor that was right next to the killing star pattern brewed and expanded for a while. Boom! Another killing star pattern emerged and condensed rapidly. 2-star Divine General of Slaughter. After winning 100 battles, Su Fong was finally promoted to a true 2-star Divine Blood Killer General. After the time it took for half an incense stick to burn, the bloody aura stopped, and everything returned to normal. At this time, a will in Su Fong's mind turned into a dignified and cold voice. "Experience, sir. You've been promoted to a 2-star Divine General of Slaughter. You can directly enter the 3rd Killer City. Since you have the Blood Killing token, you can also choose to stay in the 2nd Killer City. You can decide for yourself. I'll stay in the 2nd Killer City for the time being." Su Fong made his decision without hesitation. His purpose in entering the Blood Valley was to avoid being hunted down by the experts of the 3 highest profound sects. Now that he had obtained the Blood Killing token, he must have triggered the Jiuquan's heavenly laws. He was directly listed on the Heavenly Profound list and protected by the Jiuquan's heavenly laws. The experts of the 3 highest profound sects couldn't do anything to him. He had long reached the limit of becoming a Tao Lord. He had to leave the Blood Valley as soon as possible and break through in the outside world. Naturally, he wouldn't continue to stay in the Blood Valley. However, he would definitely come back to the Blood Valley in the future to improve the strength of his Blood Fury Dharma body and obtain the title of a high-level Divine General of Slaughter, or even the title of Divine Lord of Slaughter. Su Fong walked down the Blood Slaughter Arena and passed through the Profound Gate, leaving the space where the Blood Slaughter Arena was. The City Lord's Mansion. Dong Xinjun was sitting cross-legged with his eyes closed, nourishing his Tao heart that was almost shattered. Suddenly, a thought passed through the formation and appeared in front of Dong Xinjun, turning into the figure of the City Lord. Dong Xinjun raised his eyebrows, and a fierce look flashed in his eyes. Although the City Lord could send his thought to any place in the 2nd Killer City, this was the palace where Dong Xinjun lived. In the past, the City Lord would never dare to send his thought here. Now that he suddenly appeared, Dong Xinjun felt that he was being looked down upon. Losing to Su Fong on the Blood Slaughter Arena made him extremely sensitive. However, Dong Xinjun soon realized that he had misunderstood the City Lord. "Young Master Dong Xinjun, good news, great news." The phantom formed by the City Lord's thought seemed unusually excited. Dong Xinjun said coldly, "What's the matter? Did Heaven Pavilion send news that they won't pursue the matter of you destroying the 3 Blood Fury Divine Guards?" Dong Xinjun's words hit the City Lord's sore spot, and he immediately became dispirited. The destruction of the 3 Blood Fury Divine Guards was enough for Heaven Pavilion to kill the City Lord and even exterminate his family. How could it be resolved so easily? It's not news from Heaven Pavilion, but something happened in the Blood Slaughter Arena. Something happened? Su Fong was lucky enough to win 100 battles, but he was not recognized by the will of the Blood Valley and was not given a Blood Slaughter token. Without the Blood Slaughter token, the laws of Jiuquan would not be triggered and he would not be able to enter the Tianxin list. Dong Xinjun's eyes flashed. "Is there such a thing?" The City Lord said proudly. "Humph, if Su Fong did not cheat, how could he win 100 battles? The will of the Blood Valley is not so easily deceived. He was lucky that he was not killed by the will of the Blood Valley. How could he have obtained a Blood Slaughter token?" Dong Xinjun asked, "Where is he now?" The City Lord speculated, since Su Fong's 100 victories were not recognized by the will of the Blood Valley, he naturally could not be promoted. He is probably back in his old nest outside the 2nd Killer City. After a moment of contemplation, Dong Xinjun said coldly, "Kill him at all costs. Even without young Master Dong Xinjun's order, I will not let him leave the 2nd Killer City alive. If I'm having a hard time, how can I let him have a good time?" The formation outside Su Fong's nest is quite extraordinary. You may not be able to kill him. Don't worry, young master. In order to deal with Su Fong, I specially arranged for a formation grandmaster to enter the Blood Valley. He is currently in the City Lord's mansion. That formation grandmaster comes from the Odd Mystery sect and is a great elder of the Odd Mystery sect. Even if he is not the best in the Eastern Xian Divine Domain, he is still one of the best. That is good. If this matter is settled, I can plead with the heavenly pavilion on your behalf. At that time, I may be able to save your life. Many thanks, young master. The city lord was overjoyed. He cupped his fists and bowed to Dong Xinjun before his figure flashed and disappeared into the void in a beam of divine light. Su Fong, I have no choice but to kill you now. I'll use your blood to wash away my humiliation and heal my Tao heart. Dong Xinjun's killing intent was so strong that the entire palace seemed to be frozen. Somewhere in the void of the heaven-forsaken barren region, Su Fong had entered the Blood Valley spacetime from here. At this moment, Executioner Grandma was sitting cross-legged in the void like an old monk in meditation. The expert from the Chamber of Commerce was also guarding the void, waiting for Su Fong to appear. In addition to the two of them, there was also a magnificent treasure ship floating in the void. QL-11, a middle-aged man, sat cross-legged at the bow of the ship. He wore a golden crown and a golden robe. His entire body exuded a supreme majesty and domineering aura. He was a peerless expert that surpassed a Tao Lord. Hundreds of cultivators were kneeling on the deck behind him. No one knew how long they had been kneeling, but they were all trembling and did not even dare to breathe loudly. This person was the leader of the Taoist sect, the number one force in the heaven-forsaken barren region. He was a peerless expert that dominated a region. The reason such a big shot had appeared here was because of Su Fong. In the Blood Valley, young Master Taoist had died. The leader of the Taoist sect was furious. After investigating, he finally found out that the murderer was Su Fong. Hence, he personally led his subordinates to guard this place. Once Su Fong left the Blood Valley, what awaited him would be the merciless suppression of the peerless experts from the three forces. The Third Star Killer City. Unlike the Second Star Killer City, the Third Star Killer City looked like a small city from the outside, but it was a different world inside. The space inside was extremely vast, with mountains and forests everywhere. In the Third Star Killer City, there was no blood slaughter arena. The entire Star Killer City was a vast blood slaughter arena. There were no challengers here. All the cultivators and blood monsters in the entire space were training targets. After entering the Third Star Killer City, only by continuously killing cultivators and blood monsters and accumulating points could one be promoted to a true 3-star killer general. At the peak of a mountain, a young man sat cross-legged on a rock. It was Ling Xingchen. Buzz. A commotion came from Ling Xingchen's body. He reached out and took out a rune talisman. A voice came from the rune talisman. Senior brother Ling Xingchen. Although Su Fong won 100 battles on the blood slaughter arena in the Second Star Killer City, he did not obtain the blood slaughter token. Hence, he will soon enter the Third Star Killer City. What? Ling Xingchen's pupil shrank. This is the will of heaven. Ha ha! Su Fong, as long as you enter the Third Star Killer City, I will not let you return. The Sixth Extreme, Tao, Saint Dharma body, is destined to belong to me. Ha ha ha! Ling Xingchen laughed maniacally. His laughter spread everywhere. Outside the Second Star Killer City, in the valley covered by layers of array formations, the Mystic Gate suddenly flashed with the power of space. A figure flashed out. Swoosh! Qin Heng and Wu Ming passed through the array formation and knelt down on one knee respectfully to Su Fong. Immediately after, Huang Jiangpeng and a dozen other subordinates walked out of the cave and knelt down to Su Fong. They shouted, "Welcome back, Master. Master is mighty." What happened in the blood slaughter arena had already been transmitted to the outside world. Naturally, they knew everything clearly. Su Fong's powerful strength and various extraordinary abilities had completely shocked and awed these subordinates. At this moment, they sincerely submitted to Su Fong. They had already realized that their master was the legendary peerless genius that only appeared once in countless years. At this moment, he was like a blazing sun in the sky, shining brightly. Chapter 2749. As soon as he entered the cave, Su Fong began to create the chrono formation. As soon as he entered the formation, Su Fong sat down cross-legged and began to devour life-restoring elixirs, spiritual objects, and the blood essence of experts. His Xianyang Dharma body was also constantly emitting life yang qi to accelerate the consumption of his physical body's life force. Using the life shrinking technique this time had consumed an astonishing amount of lifespan. Although Su Fong had all kinds of extraordinary recovery methods, it would still take a long time for him to recover to his peak state. However, compared to the huge gains, these losses were quite worth it. While recovering, Su Fong transmitted his thoughts to Shi Xian Daozu. Master, I would like to ask about Jiuxuan's heavenly laws and the heavenly profound ranking. Jiuxuan's heavenly laws and the heavenly profound ranking were not accessible to ordinary practitioners. Now Su Fong could only ask Daozu. In the entire Jiuxuan's divine realm, there was nothing that Daozu did not know. Daozu quickly responded, Jiuxuan's heavenly laws are a rule created by the 9 divine realms and the destiny stage to protect the survival of the human race and prevent the human race from killing each other. Jiuxuan's heavenly laws cover all the mystic realms in the Jiuxuan's divine realm. Like the heavenly Tao, it is a common rule that all human practitioners must abide by. No one can defy it. Even I cannot override Jiuxuan's heavenly laws. I see. In order to protect the human race's geniuses and prevent them from being killed by the human race before they grow up, Jiuxuan's heavenly laws have rules to protect these geniuses. You only need to know these now. Now that I have the blood-killing token, will I be able to activate Jiuxuan's heavenly laws and enter the heavenly profound ranking? Of course. However, you'll have to wait until you leave the Blood Valley before you can sense the mysterious protective power. Don't have too much hope. Even if you enter the heavenly profound ranking, don't think that you can rest easy. Why? Through your training in the Blood Valley, you have touched the Jiuxuan's heavenly laws and entered the heavenly profound ranking. This is certain. However, his ranking will definitely not be too high, and the protection of the heavens will also be very limited. I wonder how the heavenly profound ranking is ranked. The heavenly profound ranking is divided into heaven, earth, profound, and yellow. At most, you are ranked on the lowest heavenly profound yellow ranking, and your ranking is also very low. Based on your current ranking on the heavenly profound ranking, according to the rules of the Jiuxuan heavenly law, experts who have surpassed the Tao Lord level are not allowed to make a move against you. Otherwise, they will be suppressed by the rules of the Jiuxuan heavenly law. As for any other special treatment, there is none. What if those experts who've surpassed the Tao Lord realm were to attack me by force? Do you think Jiuxuan's laws are just for show? The Jiuxuan heavenly law was a supreme rule that all humans abided by. It was equivalent to the supreme heavenly law and covered the entire Jiuxuan divine realm. If anyone dares to violate it, they will be mercilessly obliterated. Of course, if you take the initiative to provoke experts who have surpassed the Tao Lord level and offend the dignity of the experts, you will not be restrained by this rule. Su Fong said proudly, with my current strength, so long as it isn't a peerless expert who has surpassed the Tao Lord level, who can threaten me? That might not be the case. How many geniuses are there in the Jiuxuan divine realm? Many geniuses intentionally suppress the advancement of their cultivation when they first step onto the path of cultivation in order to stabilize their foundation. Their true strength far surpasses the Tao Lord level, and they can still threaten your life. So long as you leave the mystic world and enter the depths of the chaos where the Jiuxuan heavenly law is unable to cover, then the heavenly law will not be able to protect you. There are also many experts from other races, and those who are slightly stronger can kill you. Su Fong, you must remember that there has never been a smooth journey on the path of cultivation. Even if you possess supreme karmic luck, you'll similarly encounter countless difficulties and obstacles that are covered in thorns. The slightest carelessness will cause you to die prematurely. I have countless disciples, and there is no lack of geniuses who are more talented than you. However, there are also many who are unable to mature and fall along the way. I don't want you to become one of them. Shixian Daozu's tone became serious as he sternly admonished Su Fong. I understand. Thank you for your teachings, Master. Su Fong trembled, and waves of coldness seeped out from the back of his heart. This time, he had swept his way through the second-star killer city, and his confidence had swelled. He had started to look down on the geniuses of the Joshuan. It was all thanks to Shi Xiandaozu's reminder. He ended the conversation with Shi Xiandaozu. Su Fong calmed down and concentrated on recovering. Who knew only 10 days had passed in the time formation when Qin Heng's panicked voice came from outside the cave. "Master, there is an enemy attack. The City Lord's residence. Within the boundaries of the second-star killer city, only the City Lord's residence dared to attack the valley where Su Fong was. QL11, and there was no one else other than the City Lord's residence that could make Qin Heng so panicked. Master's wise. It is the City Lord's residence. The City Lord's relatives have led more than 500 experts and thousands of experiential cultivators to surround the valley. I know. There's no need to pay attention to them." Su Fong responded lightly. Qin Heng was very surprised, but he did not dare to ask. However, Su Fong's calm and confident tone made Qin Heng feel much more at ease. Outside the valley, many cultivators surrounded the valley and in the air. Other than the experts who work for the City Lord's residence, there were also experiential cultivators who had come because of the large reward the City Lord's residence had offered. The City Lord stood in midair with his hands behind his back, and his fierce gaze swept past the vast formation in the valley, and then his brows instantly knit together. After that, he asked a middle-aged man who wore an earth-yellow robe by his side. "Master Zhua, the formation created by Su Fong is truly shocking. Even the Vice City Lord Qin Heng under my command, and the Daolord Realm experts from the Endless Sun sect and the 3 supreme mysterious sects were killed by Su Fong through the formation. May I know if Master Zhua is confident in his ability to break through these formations? The Tao of formations does not rely on numbers to obtain victory." The yellow-robed, middle-aged man snorted disdainfully towards the formation in the valley. This person had a few strands of beard, a thin and short figure, and he seemed to be slightly wretched and had an ordinary appearance. His cultivation wasn't very high, and it was only at the intermediate Daolord realm. However, the City Lord was extremely respectful towards this person, and it was obvious that this person's identity was extraordinary. The City Lord stroked his beard and nodded. Formations that are difficult for ordinary cultivators to break through are naturally not worth mentioning to a formation master like Master Zhua from the mystical sect. As long as Master Zhua is able to break through the formation in the valley, Su Fong, who is currently in a heavily injured state and has lost the protection of the formation, can only obediently allow himself to be captured. Masters was said proudly, "The Tao of formations is vast and boundless, but it remains the same. Although I dare not say that no one can compare to me in the Tao of formations, in the Eastern profound divine domain, only those formation masters can surpass me." The City Lord was instantly overjoyed. Masters would then reassured the City Lord. Formations are divided into a total of 9 levels, and most of the formations in the valley are some of the lowest level 1 formations. However, I am a level 3 formation master. Then, he said proudly and confidently, "Moreover, I have a Xianbao that is specially used to break through formations. Even if I encounter a level 4 formation, I can still break it in one go. Don't worry, City Lord, leave the formations below to me. In less than 10 days, I will definitely break through all of them." The City Lord was greatly reassured. "Then I will have to trouble you, Master Zhua. When the time comes, I will definitely promise you a handsome reward." Master Zhua flew across the sky to the formation above the valley and made a series of hand seals, which fell into the formation. A moment later, a series of explosions came from the formation, and one of the formations shattered with a loud bang. Master Zhua is mighty, amazing, truly amazing. Those formations gave us a headache, but Master Zhua can easily break them with a single move, as expected of a formation master. Su Fong is like a turtle in a jar now. Even if he has wings, he can't escape. Many cultivators cheered loudly and praised Master Zhua without restraint. Masters were revealed a proud expression and began to feel a little smug. Then a divine light rolled in his eyes, and fell in the formation. After thinking for a while, he made a series of dazzling hand seals. Boom, boom, boom. Layer after layer of the formation shattered with a loud bang. 100 miles away from the valley, Dong Xinichin and Dong Xianchan stood in the air, watching this scene intently. Seeing that Master Zhua was breaking the formation at such an astonishing speed, the two began to worry about Su Fang. Dong Xianchan asked anxiously, "Senior Brother Chen, what should we do?" Brother Su Fang was seriously injured in the blood slaughter arena, and now he can only rely on the formation to protect himself. If all the formations are broken by the mystical sex formation master, won't he be in danger? Let's wait a little longer. If it really doesn't work, we will have to take action. The will of the Blood Valley is too unfair. Brother Su Fang has won 100 battles. Why didn't he give him the blood slaughter token? Otherwise, why would the city lord dare to attack Brother Su Fang? In another direction, in the void more than 1,000 miles away from the valley, Hu Tianyu and a dozen cultivators were also paying attention to the movements in the valley. After leaving the space of the blood slaughter arena, Hu Tianyu was worried that the city lord would take revenge, so he quickly left the city and came to the wilderness outside. The cultivators around him all came from low-level universes, or the descendants of low-level universes cultivators from the heaven-forsaken desolate region. They were the so-called heaven-forsaken slave race in the Jioshuan god domain. The cultivation talent of the heaven-forsaken slave race was far inferior to the cultivators of the Jioshuan god domain. Their lifetime achievements were limited, which was the source of their discrimination and oppression. These cultivators were able to enter the second city of the Blood Valley, Star Slaughter City. Naturally, they were the most outstanding of the heaven-forsaken slave race in the Eastern Profound Divine Domain. Seeing that Su Fang was in danger, Hu Tianyu and the others were worried, but there was nothing they could do. Hu Tianyu said resolutely, "Su Fang's talent is amazing, and he is a peerless genius. As long as he can grow into a powerhouse, he will definitely become the leader of low-level universes cultivators like us. The hope of our so-called heaven-forsaken slave race in the future lies in him. This time, we must not let the city lord succeed. Although our heaven-forsaken slave race is of lowly origin, we are not afraid of death. At worst, we will fight to the death with the city lord mansion and risk our lives to save Su Fang and send him out of the Blood Valley. It is not easy for a peerless genius to appear. How can we let them kill him? For the sake of our descendants and for our pride, we must save Su Fang even if we have to risk our lives." Chapter 2750. Rumble. Masters with speed was extremely fast. He quickly cleared all the formations outside the valley. Master Zhua is mighty. Master Zhua is invincible. The crowd's flattery made Master Zhua even more proud. However, as Master Zhua entered the inner region of the valley, the speed of breaking the formation gradually slowed down as the layers of formations were broken. The formations here were no longer the lowest level of Level 1 formations. They were Level 2 formations. Master Zhua was a Level 3 formation master. Logically speaking, Level 2 formations shouldn't be a problem for him. However, formation masters all had their own strengths. Some were good at illusion formations. Some were good at defense formations, attack formations, and trap formations. There were also some formation masters who specialized in some very rare ancient formations. QL11, the Grade 2 formations that Su Fang had created in the valley, were not only numerous, but they were also stacked on top of each other. There were also various kinds of formations. Some of them were so rare that even Master Zhua, a Grade 3 formation master, had to think hard and deduce for a long time. After many attempts, he could only break them. Such a vast array of formations can't be created by a formation master who only learned about formations halfway. That's Su Fang. Could he be a formation master from the northern profound divine region? The arrogance on Master Zhua's face had disappeared. Beads of sweat began to appear on his forehead. Seeing this, the city lord asked worriedly, "Master Zhua, are you in trouble? Wouldn't it be a disgrace to a formation master if he was stumped by a formation created by a true Tao cultivator?" Master Zhua regained his arrogant demeanor and said, domineeringly. It's just some level 2 formations. How could they be a problem for me? I'm just a little tired. I'll take a short rest. It won't take long for me to clear all the formations. The city lord said, I see. Masterswa, please take a short rest. You don't have to rush for a year or two. Breaking a formation consumed the primordial spirit the most. Although a formation master's primordial spirit was much stronger than an ordinary cultivator's, Master's primordial spirit was naturally exhausted after breaking so many formations. Wait until I recover. I'll definitely break all the formations in one go. Masters smiled proudly. He immediately sat cross-legged in the air above the valley, swallowed a pill, and closed his eyes to recover. Whoosh! A figure emerged from the formation in the valley. It was Su Fang's primordial spirit. Su Fang's disdainful gaze swept over Masterswa, the city lord, and the numerous cultivators. He let out a cold laugh. Is that Su Fang's Dharmakaya? Damn it! How many Dharmakayas does he have? The city master could see the extraordinariness of Su Fang's primordial spirit Dharmakaya. Other than the physical body, ordinary cultivators could only cultivate a type of Dharma body. Cultivating a Dharmakaya was not only limited by one's talent and cultivation method, but also the large amount of resources required to cultivate a Dharmakaya limited the number of Dharmakayas. Only a peerless genius from the eastern profound heavenly pavilion like Dongxian Jun possessed the natural talent and resources to cultivate 6 avatars before stepping foot into the Downlord realm. Su Fang, a cultivator from a low-level universe, had actually displayed so many Dharmakayas. Moreover, every Dharmakaya was extraordinary. How could the city master not be shocked? Su Fang looked at the city master and sneered. I originally intended to spare your life, but you recklessly delivered yourself to me. Looks like I have no choice but to kill you. The city master shouted with a murderous aura. You're about to become my prisoner. How dare you boast so shamelessly? You want to suppress Su Fang with just the likes of you? Su Fang sneered again. Then he looked at Masterswa. Your level of formations isn't bad. If you submit to me, Su Fang, I'll let your level of formations rise to another level. Masterswa flew into a rage. I'm a formation grandmaster of the mystical sect. Your heaven-forsaken slave clan wants me to submit? Let's see how arrogant you can be after I break all your formations. You can break my formations? Su Fang's nascent soul Dharmakaya chuckled. He reached out and grabbed several divine stones. He rolled them into the void and arranged them in a strange pattern. Then, Su Fang's nascent soul Dharmakaya released its nascent soul Dharmakaya and enveloped the divine stones. ZZZT, ZZZT, ZZZT. The divine stones immediately erupted with energy. They intertwined and quickly formed a formation. Then, Su Fang's nascent soul Dharmakaya continued to create more than 100 formations in a single breath. They covered the area that Masters had destroyed just now. I like to see if you can break formations faster, or if I can create them faster. Su Fang's nascent soul Dharmakaya revealed a domineering smile. Then, it was swept away by the divine might of the formation and retreated into the vast formation. Masters Wu was shocked. He's so skilled in formations, and the speed at which he set them up is so fast. It's as if it's at his fingertips. This person must also be a formation grandmaster. Moreover, he must be a formation grandmaster from the northern profound divine realm. The city lord's expression also turned serious. He asked, Can you do it, Masters One? How dare you say that I can't do it? Masters will look displeased. Then, he said proudly, When did I say that I can't do it? Of course I can do it. No matter what, he couldn't lose face. Masterswa ignored the exhaustion of his nascent soul Dharmakaya and tried to break the formations again. However, every time Masterswa broke a formation, Su Fang's nascent soul Dharmakaya would quickly create a new one. Moreover, the speed at which he created formations was much faster than Masterswa. More and more sweat beaded on Masterswa's forehead. His face grew paler and paler. He no longer had the bearing of a grandmaster. The cultivators outside the valley also realized that Master Zhu really couldn't compare to Su Fang. There were no more words of flattery or compliments. Instead, disdain and ridicule began to hum from the crowd of cultivators. "How dare you mock me?" Master Zhu couldn't keep his face straight. He flew into a rage out of humiliation and took out his trump card. Master Zhu put his palms together and suddenly separated them. A black Xian Guang shot out from between his palms. It was a black horn. No one knew what kind of strange beast's horn it was made from. There were blood-red whorls on it, and it exuded an evil aura. Master Zhu took out the Xian Guang. However, there was a hint of hesitation in his eyes. It was obvious that he had to pay a high price to activate this Xian Guang. Master Zhu's supreme Xian Guang will definitely be able to destroy everything in its path. The city lord could sense the extraordinariness of this Xian Guang and praised loudly in the air. Master Zhu's spirits were lifted. He no longer hesitated and spat out a mouthful of blood. Then he released a thought into the black horn. Woo, woo, woo. The black horn spun rapidly and emitted a series of shocking woo. It made the souls of all the cultivators tremble. They felt that the black horn had drilled a hole in their will and origin souls. Whoosh! The black-horned Xian Guang shot out. Wherever it went, a power that could distort and tear everything apart drilled through layer after layer of formations. Then it began to shatter. Rumble. The vast formations in the valley were all shattered, revealing the entire valley. He has such a powerful formation, Xian Guang. Impressive. The formation master invited by the city lord is indeed something. Su Fang's nascent soul doppelganger was also shocked. He glanced at the black Xian Guang and then disappeared into the cave abode in the valley in a flash. Whoosh! The black Xian Guang, transformed from the black-horned Xian Guang, was caught in Master Zhu's hand and sucked into his body through his palm. Master Zhu's face was pale, without a trace of blood. His body was trembling, and he looked like he was about to collapse. It was obvious that he had paid a heavy price to activate this Xian Guang. The city lord was surprised and overjoyed. He shouted loudly, "Master Zhu is indeed a first-rate formation master in the Eastern Xian divine domain. It won't be long before you become a formation grandmaster." The cultivators around the city lord and the surrounding cultivators were also full of praise. They looked at Master Zhu with eyes full of respect. Master Zhu forced himself to stay in the air. He raised his head, and his face was full of pride and satisfaction. Swoosh! Swoosh! The city lord led more than 1,000 cultivators into the valley and surrounded Su Fang's cave abode. The city lord shouted domineeringly, "Su Fang, you are now a turtle in a jar. Why don't you come out and surrender?" Whoosh! Two figures came out of the cave abode's boundary. When the city lord and the other cultivators saw the faces of these two people clearly, their expressions changed instantly. Vice City Lord Qin, isn't that the peerless expert from the Great Sun Limitless sect? Other than Dong Shinichen, no one knew that Qin Heng and Wu Ming had been subdued by Su Fang. They thought that they had been killed by Su Fang. Now that both of them had appeared in Su Fang's cave abode at the same time, it immediately caused waves of shock and exclamations. The city lord understood at once and shouted at Qin Heng, "Qin Heng, how dare you betray me and join Su Fang?" Qin Heng said, "You, the second city lord of Star Slaughter City, are only a puppet controlled by the Eastern Xian Pavilion's experts. How could I be willing to be controlled by you? Master Su Fang's talent is extraordinary and his future is limitless. He will definitely be a peerless expert who will shock Dongxian in the future. It is my good fortune to submit to him." Wu Ming nodded and said, "That's right. It is our great fortune to be able to submit to Master." The city lord was enraged. Shameless traitor. The cultivators behind the city lord's residence all scolded and cursed as well. Qin Heng did not move and said, "Lord City Lord, you have offended Master again and again. You can't escape death. For the sake of our past relationship, I advise you to kneel down and admit your sins to Master quickly. I will plead for mercy on your behalf. Maybe you can still keep your life." The city lord shouted thunderously, "Qin Heng, I see that you have been controlled by Su Fang's sorcery. How could you say such ridiculous things? Since you have betrayed me, not only Su Fong, I will subdue you as well and skin all of you alive." He then ordered the cultivators beside him in a voice filled with murderous intent, "Subdue Su Fong. If you can't capture him alive, you must die." Many cultivators rushed to the cave abode, trying to outdo each other. Go back. Chapter 2751. The city lord said coldly, "Dongxian Ichin, Dongxian Chan, both of you are just low-level disciples in Dongxian Pavilion." This time, Su Fong killed the blood fiend divine guards that Heaven Pavilion carefully nurtured and humiliated young Master Dongxian. June Heaven Pavilion will not let him go no matter what. Protecting Su Fong is going against young Master Dongxian Jun and betraying Heaven Pavilion. You will be severely punished by Heaven Pavilion. Dongxian Ichin displayed the domineering aura of a Heaven Pavilion disciple. You sent the Blood Fiend Divine Guards to the Bloody Slaughter stage to try to kill Su Fong, but they were killed by Su Fong instead. What does that have to do with Su Fong? Even if Heaven Pavilion investigates, it will be your fault. As for Dongxian Jun, he is not as skilled as others, yet he resorted to such despicable means and humiliated Heaven Pavilion. Does he have the right to represent Heaven Pavilion? The city lord flew into a rage out of humiliation. Dongxian Ichin, I will not argue with you. Leave quickly, or I will suppress you and Dongxian Chan together. Dongxian Ichin took a step forward. If you want to kill Su Fong, you'll have to step over my dead body. Dongxian Chan also took a step forward. Although his weak body was trembling nonstop, his eyes were filled with determination and determination. All the cultivators began to hesitate. No matter what status Dongxian Ichin and Dongxian Chan had in Dongxian Pavilion, they were Heaven Pavilion disciples after all. If they were really killed, Heaven Pavilion would not sit by and do nothing. If they were investigated, no one would have a good ending. At this moment, Dongxian Jun's divine thought rang in the city lord's mind. Kill them. I will bear all the consequences. The city lord's expression turned vicious. Suddenly, Tianu, will never agree to killing Su Fong. Another dozen figures flew over and landed at the entrance of the cave abode. It turned out that Tianu had brought the cultivators from the low-level universe. The city lord sneered disdainfully. A bunch of lowly slaves from the Forsaken race. You want to stop me? A mantis trying to stop a chariot. You overestimate yourselves. Just as he was about to issue an order to kill Dongxian Ichin and the rest who were guarding outside the cavern, Su Fong leaped out of the formation and appeared outside the cavern. At this time, Su Fong was far from fully recovered. He still had a head full of white hair, an aged face, and a weak aura. He was wearing a black robe that covered the blood armor on his body, so no one could see the condition of the blood demon Dharma body. However, it was not difficult for everyone to imagine that his blood demon Dharma body could not have recovered much in such a short time. Dongxian Ichin hurriedly sent a telepathic message to Su Fong. Su Fong, I'll hold them off for you for a while. Find an opportunity to escape this valley and then try to leave Blood Valley through the profound gate. Tinu also transmitted his voice over. Su Fong, leave quickly. I will burn my blood fiend Dharma body and bring you out of the encirclement. You are the hope of us low-level universe cultivators. Don't let your anger get the better of you. Go. Swoosh, 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 swoosh. Dongxian Ichin, Dongxian Chan, Tianu, and a dozen other cultivators stood in front of Su Fong. A strong, murderous aura erupted and swept out like a tide, forcing the city lord and many other cultivators to retreat. Qin Heng and Wu Meng were also worried about Su Fong's safety, so they stayed close to Su Fong. Su Fong was touched. Whether it was in the Pongsong universe or in the Jiuquan divine realm, the law of the jungle was the main theme. However, there was never a lack of passion and true feelings. Kill them all. At the city lord's command, many cultivators rushed over. Su Fong suddenly flew out and landed in front of Dongxian Ichin and the rest. Looking at the aggressive crowd, he swept his disdainful eyes and said coldly, You all want to kill me, Su Fong? Whoosh. Everyone's eyes flashed as they stopped. These people were all on the blood slaughter platform and had witnessed the scene of Su Fong sweeping away the strong enemies. At the same time, they had also witnessed Su Fong's ruthlessness. Su Fong had a strong deterrent force to them. At this time, facing Su Fong, they couldn't help but tremble, and a chill seeped out of their bodies. The city lord's heart also palpitated. Su Fong smiled coldly. Although he looked very weak, his domineering aura was obvious. As long as you leave now, I won't pursue anything. If you insist on being stubborn, don't blame Su Fong for being ruthless. Some cultivators began to hesitate. On the blood slaughter platform, Su Fong seemed to be in a desperate situation time and time again. But in the end, he reversed the situation time and time again. Who could be sure that the same thing wouldn't happen this time? Thinking of Su Fong's ruthless means to deal with the enemy, some cultivators' Dao hearts began to waver, and they couldn't help but retreat. The city lord let out a thunderous roar. Su Fong was seriously injured on the blood slaughter platform. Everyone saw it. It's only been a few days, so how can he recover? He's just bluffing now. Kill him, and I'll double the blood evil pills and blood evil stones that I promised. Under the temptation of the city lord's reward, many cultivators no longer hesitated and unleashed their auras, attacking Su Fong. Su Fong, retreat. Master, it's dangerous. Dong Xianichin and the others shouted at the same time and rushed forward. At this moment, boom! A murderous aura burst out from Su Fong's body. This murderous aura was not only incomparably majestic, but it also surpassed the limit of a one-star divine slaughter general. Once the murderous aura was released, it was like a gust of wind sweeping away fallen leaves. The cultivators in front of him instantly had their Dao hearts shattered, and the cultivators behind also had their Dao hearts shaken and their willpower collapsed. They fell to the ground one after another like dumplings. Dong Xianichin and the others were also affected. They were all frightened and lost all will to resist. Su Fong's Dharma robe was also torn apart by the murderous aura, revealing the blood armor on his body. Seeing the two murderous stars on the blood armor, the city lord's expression changed instantly. Two-star divine slaughter general. Two-star divine slaughter general. Sounds of shock and exclamations rose and fell one after another. Looks of disbelief were focused on Su Fong's blood armor. That's right. Judging from the blood armor on Su Fong's body and the murderous aura that he released just now, Su Fong was indeed a two-star divine slaughter general. Impossible. Your 100 victories were obtained by cheating, and you're not recognized by the Blood Valley's will. How can you be promoted to a two-star divine slaughter general? Moreover, once promoted, a two-star divine slaughter general would be directly teleported to the third slaughter city or leave the Blood Valley. How can you still stay in the second slaughter city? The city lord shouted loudly, finding it hard to believe. Many cultivators were also puzzled. They did not understand what was going on. However, there was one thing that everyone was very clear about. Su Fong had the identity and strength of a two-star divine slaughter general. With the blood evil Dharma body, he could be said to be a supreme existence in the second slaughter city. No one could stop him. Some cultivators realized that something was wrong and secretly retreated, preparing to escape. Su Fong looked at the city lord and said indifferently, I've been promoted to a two-star divine slaughter general, but I can still stay in the second slaughter city. Do you really not understand the reason, or are you pretending to be confused? The city lord exclaimed, unless you have the blood slaughter token, then you are qualified to stay in the second slaughter city. Impossible. You can't have the blood slaughter token. Su Fong has won 100 battles. Why can't I have the blood slaughter token? Su Fong shouted domineeringly and reached out to grab a blood-colored token. The blood slaughter token. You are obviously not recognized by the will of the Blood Valley. How can you have the blood slaughter token? The city lord was stunned. It was as if 10,000 thunderbolts were roaring in his head. The other cultivators were also stunned. Their eyes were fixed on the blood slaughter token in Su Fong's hand. These cultivators had come aggressively, but at this moment, it was as if a bucket of ice water had been poured over them. Their monstrous ferocity and murderous aura were instantly extinguished. Originally, they thought that Su Fong was an injured tiger that had lost its teeth and claws, and that the pack of wolves could easily tear it apart. Who knew? How could he be an injured tiger? He was clearly a lively divine dragon. How could they, a pack of vicious wolves, offend the supreme majesty of a divine dragon? The city lord quickly reacted. He turned around and fled without hesitation. The other cultivators also fled in all directions like frightened beasts. Did I say you could go? Su Fong smiled coldly. He immediately injected a bloody aura and activated the blood slaughter token in his hand. In an instant, Su Fong's entire body merged with the blood slaughter token. At the same time, he also merged with the space-time of the Blood Valley. A feeling of controlling everything suddenly arose spontaneously. The owner of the blood slaughter token had the ability to control a part of the will of the Blood Valley. At this time, Su Fong was like the master of the Blood Valley, controlling the life and death of many cultivators. Boom! The supreme will of the Blood Valley swept over from the endless void. Under the crushing pressure of this supreme will, the cultivators who fled in all directions were unable to resist. They fell from the sky to the ground, unable to move. They couldn't even summon a trace of resistance. The city lord held on for less than 10 breaths. It was also difficult for him to resist the will of the Blood Valley. He fell to the ground, trembling all over as if doomsday had arrived. Su Fong's indifferent voice sounded. "For my silver-patterned blood demon elixir, you chased after me again and again. You even sent out the blood slaughter divine aura to kill me in the blood slaughter arena. I didn't intend to kill you because you came from the eastern profound heaven pavilion. However, you didn't know what's good for you and brought people to kill me. If I don't kill you, others will think that I, Su Fong, am weak and don't dare to resist being stepped on." The city lord shouted loudly. "I was sent by the experts of the Heaven Pavilion to guard the second Killing Star City and represent the Beyond Heaven Pavilion. If you dare to kill me, the Eastern Profound Heaven Pavilion will not let you off easily. Even if you have the Blood Slaughter token and are listed on the Heavenly Profound list, the laws of Joshuan can't protect you. You're about to die, but you still want to use the Heaven Pavilion to suppress me. If I, Su Fong, want to kill someone, even the Heaven Pavilion can't stop me." Su Fong activated the Blood Slaughter token. A supreme will suddenly descended, shattering the city lord's Tao heart and will. Immediately after, another sword chi that contained the supreme will condensed into a murderous aura that crossed the sky and crushed the city lord's head. The city lord of the second Killing Stars city had fallen. Chapter 2752. Under the suppression of the supreme will of the Blood Valley that Su Fong had obtained with the help of the blood-killing token, those cultivators were as small as ants. Su Fong only needed to slightly move his mind, and their will would shatter. What was more, even the city lord had been easily suppressed by Su Fong. What other choice did they have other than to submit? Submit. I'm willing to submit. Master, please spare my life. I'm willing to submit. About 1,500 cultivators, most of whom were cultivators who had entered the Blood Valley to gain experience, and some were experts who had sought refuge with the city lord's mansion. They all transmitted their thoughts and submitted to Su Fong. With the help of the blood-killing token, Su Fong shrouded the entire area with his divine power. He grabbed those cultivators from the air and landed them in the valley. Even the arrogant master Zhua couldn't escape and was captured by Su Fong. Then, Su Fong used the power of the blood evil Dharma body as the source to cast a seal. He inserted seal seeds into the Tao palaces of those cultivators and implanted them into their souls. Under the suppression of the will of the Blood Valley, everyone had no choice but to submit. Only Master Zhua, whose Tao heart was very tenacious, refused to submit to Su Fong no matter what. He was shackled by Su Fong and sucked into the Xianwang Dharma body. Su Fong naturally wouldn't treat those 1,000 cultivators who had been suppressed the same as Qin Heng, Wu Ming, and Huang Jiangping's subordinates. Su Fong unceremoniously plundered all the resources on them, and then sucked them into the Xianwang Dharma body to shackle them. He sent ancestral Gragon into the Xianwang Dharma body and let him train the slaves that had just been suppressed. Su Fong especially told ancestral Gragon to take special care of the array master. He didn't believe that he couldn't make him submit. In this way, the city lord came aggressively with more than 1,000 experts. In the end, they were all suppressed by Su Fong. The city lord died, and the other cultivators all became Su Fong's slaves. Dong Xinichin, Dong Xinchan, Hua Tiannu, a dozen cultivators from low-level universes, Qin Heng, and Wu Ming all witnessed the whole process of Su Fong suppressing the cultivators. They were all dumbfounded and turned into stone statues. At first, they thought that Su Fong would not be able to escape this time. In order to save Su Fong, they even had the thought of a life and death struggle. Who knew Su Fong unexpectedly suppressed everyone in less than the time it took for an incense stick to burn. Even the city lord was not spared. Why would Su Fong need their help? Dong Xinichin and the others looked at Su Fong with eyes full of shock and reverence. Such a person with such means had completely convinced them. Dong Xinchan's eyes were twinkling like little stars. He was full of respect for Su Fong. Dong Xinichin shook his head and said with a wry smile, "Su Fong, you obtained the blood-killing token and hid it from everyone. You made us worry for nothing." Hua Tiannu said with a smile, "I already knew that Su Fong was extraordinary, but I didn't expect him to be so extraordinary. We are ashamed of our inferiority. Amazing, really amazing. Anyway, I, Su Fong, am very grateful that all of you can stand up for me when I was in danger." Su Fong cupped his fists and thanked Dong Xinichin and the others. Dong Xinichin and the others were overjoyed and cupped their fists at Su Fong. With Su Fong's talent and ability, he would definitely not be an ordinary person in the future. Even Dong Xinichin and the disciples of Heaven Pavilion could not compare to him. At this time, to be able to gain Su Fong's friendship was much more valuable than obtaining a peerless Xianbao. Su Fong thought for a moment and took out a large number of blood evil pills and blood evil stones from the storage rings of the cultivators he had just suppressed. He also took out other elixirs, spiritual objects, and other resources and distributed them to Dong Xinichin, Hua Tiannu, and the others. QL11, Su Fong also found a large number of blood evil pills in the city lord's storage ring. They were all 9 vein pills from the Chamber of Commerce. Su Fong had no use for these blood evil pills, so he gave them all to Dong Xinichin and the others. Dong Xinichin and the others each received nearly 100,000 blood evil stones and a large number of blood evil pills. There were more than 1,009 vein pills and a large number of other resources. They were all shocked by Su Fong's generosity. Dong Xinichin and Dong Xinchan were not surprised. Hua Tiannu and the others were born lowly. In Second Star Killer City, they did not hesitate to sell their treasures for blood evil pills and blood evil stones. Now that they had received such a large amount of resources, they were all dizzy, like beggars who had been hit by gold ingots falling from the sky. None of them had expected that their act of risking their lives to save others would be rewarded with such a great return. It was far beyond their imagination. Su Fong brought Dong Xinichin and the others into the cave residence. At the same time, Su Fong asked Qin Heng to take Huang Jiangpeng and the others and select 300 reliable people from the cultivators who had just been suppressed. They immediately went to Second Star Killer City. The purpose of going to Second Star Killer City was naturally to plunder the City Lord Mansion. The City Lord's Mansion had exploited many experiential learning cultivators and had accumulated an unknown amount of wealth. Su Fong had even killed the City Lord. In any case, he had already offended the expert of Dongxian Heaven Pavilion, who secretly controlled Second Star Killer City. He might as well thoroughly offend him and take the opportunity to plunder Second Star Killer City clean. Su Fong naturally would not let go of the Chamber of Commerce. When Su Fong was in the Pongsang universe, he had the honorific Su Huang. Now that he was in the Jiuquan divine domain, not only could this honorific not be buried, it had to be continued. In addition, Su Fong also ordered Qin Heng to control all the profound doors that left Blood Valley. They could only enter but not leave, to prevent the news from leaking and causing unnecessary trouble. Dong Xinchin and Dong Xianchan stayed in Su Fang's cave residence for a few days before leaving in embarrassment. After the two Heaven Pavilion geniuses left, Hua Tianyu suggested that Su Fang step forward and form a force that belonged to the Heaven-forsaken slave race in the Heaven-forsaken wilderness. Su Fang pondered for a while, but did not agree to Hua Tianyu's suggestion. The main reason was that Su Fang's current strength was not at the level where he could dominate a region. If he formed a force now, it would definitely attract attention from all sides. A tall tree attracts the wind. It was not necessarily a good thing. Only when he had enough strength would he consider forming a force. Besides, Su Fang's main purpose in coming to the Eastern Xian Divine Domain was to save his grandfather's soul from Dongxian Zheng and Dongxian Rong, as well as to revive Goddess Luo. Other things could only be put aside for the time being. Su Fang, work hard. When you grow up, Hua Tianyu, and the many heaven-forsaken slave races in the heaven-forsaken wilderness will definitely respond and follow you. Hua Tianyu cupped his fists at Su Fang, then left the valley with a dozen or so cultivators from low-level universes. Su Fang settled down in the cave residence in the valley and focused on recovering. Soon, news came from Qin Hung. The City Lord Mansion was completely wiped out this time. Qin Hung effortlessly took control of the entire second Killing Star city. After a round of looting, he cleaned out the City Lord Mansion's treasury. It was so clean that even a mouse would not care about it. The Chamber of Commerce did not let it go either. All the treasures in the warehouse were taken clean, leaving not even a scrap of grass behind. The various resources and treasures that were looted this time were almost equivalent to that of a mid-sized sect. With the resources that Su Fang had now, in addition to the various treasures in the Six Extreme Tao, Saint Celestial Body, it was enough to establish a force in the Eastern Xian Divine Domain. What surprised Su Fang was that he had obtained 5 types of spiritual items from the City Lord Mansion and the Chamber of Commerce's treasury. They were the rare spiritual items needed to nurture the heavenly Tao core. It was really a case of searching high and low for something, only to find it by chance without any effort. In this way, he only needed 3 types of spiritual items to nurture the heavenly Tao core. Dong Xinjun was still in the City Lord Mansion, but Su Fang did not let Qin Hung touch him. It was not that Su Fang did not want to kill Dong Xinjun, but this person's identity was not ordinary. Su Fang could not bear the consequences of killing him. Besides, this person was already defeated, so Su Fang did not have much interest in killing him. Dong Xinjun was very tactful. He hid in a palace in the City Lord Mansion and did not show himself. However, the defeat of the City Lord and the control of Second Star Killer City by Su Fang was undoubtedly a heavy blow to Dong Xinjun. Although it was not enough to make him unable to recover, it was definitely a heavy blow to his Tao heart and confidence. The profound gate that led to and from Second Star Killer City was also controlled by Qin Heng's men. No one knew that Su Fang had suppressed the City Lord and more than 1,500 cultivators. Now that the profound gate was sealed, the outside world had no idea what had happened in Second Star Killer City. The only way to leave Second Star Killer City was through the Blood Slaughter Arena and become a 2-star Divine Slaughter General. However, that was not something that could be done in short time. Su Fang was in a state of recovery in his cave abode. Unknowingly, 10,000 years had passed in the formation space. The life force that he had expended and the injuries and exhaustion of his avatars had all recovered to peak condition. His avatars had also improved. As soon as they left Second Star Killer City, they would become Tao Lords. However, the Blood Slaughter avatar did not change much. Su Fang found that after becoming a 2-star Divine Slaughter General, it was difficult for him to improve in Second Star Killer City. He should be restricted by the laws of the Blood Valley. Su Fang, Ancestral Gregon, transmitted his will. In the past 10,000 years, Ancestral Gregon had been training the newly subdued cultivators in the profound yellow avatar. It could be said that he had been extremely awe-inspiring. Su Fang asked, "How's the training of those cultivators going?" "Su Fang, your strength has really soared this time. Even the Heavenly Venerate was far inferior to you in the past. There's a total of 11 Downlords. 2 of them are at the intermediate Downlord realm, 1 is at the advanced Downlord realm, and the other over 1,000 cultivators are all Downlords. Moreover, all of them are formidable experts that possess Blood Fury avatars. All of them have been taught to be obedient by this ancestor. Ancestral Gragon's words shocked Su Fong. Unexpectedly, this time, he had subdued so many experts. In this way, Su Fong's overall strength had increased by more than 10 times. With so many subordinates, it was more than enough for him to dominate a small mystic world. I finally have the capital to establish a foothold in the eastern profound divine realm. Su Fong was very happy with such a huge harvest. Chapter 2753. Ancestral Gragon then continued, but there's a stinky and tough guy who I can't deal with. You can do as you see fit. Is it that array grandmaster? Su Fong thought of that array grandmaster. That man may look wretched, but his array skills were extremely high. Su Fong originally planned to subdue him since he could be of great use to him in the future. Unmoved by force or persuasion, I like to see what's so tough about that array grandmaster. Su Fong's consciousness immediately sank into the black and yellow Dharma body and came to a corner deep inside the Dharma body. Masters was lying in the corner. His skin was not intact and was dripping with blood. There were also traces of being burned by demonic fire. His aura was weak, and he looked like he would die at any time. Su Fong gasped and said inwardly, "This ancestral Gragon guy is really ruthless." Masters was tortured half to death, but he was still very tough, his face full of arrogance and unruliness. Seeing Su Fong, Masters was struggled to stand up and proudly said, "I'm an array grandmaster. My status is noble, and I can be killed, but not humiliated. Even if you kill me, I'll never submit to a lowly heaven-forsaken slave clan like you." Su Fong smiled disdainfully and ridiculed. "As far as I know, only array masters above the 6th level are qualified to be called array grandmasters. You're just a 3rd-level array master, far from the 6th level. How dare you call yourself an array grandmaster?" Masters with scarred face suddenly turned red. He snorted and said, "I may not be an array grandmaster now, but my talent in the Tao of arrays is unparalleled. I'm even valued by an array grandmaster who wants to take me as his disciple. I'll be promoted to an array grandmaster sooner or later. How can I submit to a Tao true realm brat like you?" Su Fong sneered and said, "Everything will be for naught if you die." Masters was snorted coldly. He held his head high and no longer spoke. He looked like a dead pig that wasn't afraid of boiling water. Su Fong said directly, "I don't want to waste my breath on you. You only have 2 choices now. Either you die or you submit to me, Su Fong. Your ambition is nothing more than to become an array master. If you submit to me, I may be able to help you become an array master. Even becoming an array grandmaster is not impossible." Masters was snorted and looked at Su Fong disdainfully. "You? According to the ranks of array masters, I'm at least a level 2 array master, and I've only been cultivating the Tao of array masters for tens of thousands of years. Compared to an array formation genius like you, how's my talent in array formations?" Su Fong's words shocked Masters Wa. With a thought, Su Fong's Luo Tian wheel appeared in front of him. This is the supreme Xian Bao that all formation masters dream of. You must have never seen it before, right? Luo Tian wheel? Why do you have the Luo Tian wheel? That's the supreme Xian Bao used by the northern profound divine region's formation masters to comprehend the Tao of array masters. Why do you have the Xian Bao? I understand now. No wonder you're able to master so many powerful formation masters. It's because you have the Luo Tian wheel. Masters' eyes lit up, and he looked like he wanted to eat the Luo Tian wheel. Su Fong chuckled. "I didn't expect you to recognize this supreme Xian Bao. This saves me a lot of time. Actually, I bought this Luo Tian wheel from the Odd Mystery sect. Ha! It's a pity that the people of the Odd Mystery sect don't know what's good for them. In the end, Su Fong benefited from it. Then which blind bastard is it? If I find out, I'll kill him." Masters was killing intense sword, and he looked like he wanted to eat someone. With a thought, Su Fang's Luo Tian wheel disappeared from the space inside his avatar. Masters was stared at Su Fang helplessly. Su Fang said, "If you submit to me, I can lend you this Luo Tian wheel to comprehend and cultivate the Tao of Array Masters." Masters was spirit rose. "Really?" Su Fang continued. "Not only the Luo Tian wheel, I can also help you fuse with the Xian Bao, can break formation masters. Although the Xian Bao is very powerful, you obviously can't control it. Every time you use it, you have to pay a huge price. Am I right?" Master Zuo was shocked and stunned. He looked at Su Fang in disbelief. After thinking for a while, Masters was said decisively, "As long as you can lend me the Luo Tian wheel to cultivate the Tao of Array Masters and help me fuse with the sky-breaching spiral divine drill, I'll recognize you as my master and be loyal to you. It's a deal. Recover from your injuries first. After you've recovered, I'll help you fuse with the Blackhorn Xian Bao." Su Fang smiled embarrassedly. He took out some elixirs and gave them to Master Zhua. Then, he disappeared into the Dharma body. Lending the Luo Tian wheel to Master Zhua was a piece of cake for Su Fang. He wouldn't lose anything. Besides, it was good news for Su Fang that Masters' level of Array Masters had improved. As for the Blackhorn Xian Bao that could break formation masters, it was indeed very powerful. However, Su Fang could see that the Xian Bao was made from the horn of some evil exotic beast. Masters couldn't control it all. He could only barely activate it with his own blood essence. Su Fang had the purple fate Dharma body and mastered the divine life shortening technique. Wouldn't it be easy for him to help Masters fuse with the Xian Bao? The reason why Su Fang took the trouble to subdue Masters was that he valued his Array Master's ability and talent. In the Jiuquan God realm, it wasn't easy to cultivate an Array Master. An Array Master was even rarer. As long as Masters was nurtured into a formation Grandmaster, he would be able to play a role that was several times more powerful than the peerless experts who had surpassed the Tao Master. Su Fang's effort in nurturing Masters was very worthwhile. It's time to leave the Blood Valley. Su Fang walked out of the time array. He took out the blood-killing token and used its divine power to send out a message. "Everyone, come back and meet with me. Prepare to leave the Blood Valley." After waiting for 3 days in the cave abode in the valley, all his subordinates returned. Su Fang took them all into his black-yellow Dharma body and left the valley. He had gained a lot from this trip to the Blood Valley. Not only had his personal strength and overall strength improved, but even his status had undergone a tremendous change. After leaving the Blood Valley, I, Su Fang, will no longer be a weakling who could be bullied by others. From now on, I will soar into the sky and defy the heavens to rise in the Eastern Xian divine realm. After arriving at the profound gate outside Second Star Killer City, Su Fang was filled with anticipation as he stepped in. A divine power of space wrapped around Su Fang, and he disappeared from the Blood Valley without a trace. Just like when he first entered, he felt a change in time and space, as if he had returned to reality from an illusion. Heartbreaker, the experts of the Chamber of Commerce, and the Taoist sect master felt the spatial fluctuation in the void and looked in that direction almost at the same time. That kid is finally coming out. Heartbreaker's eyes flashed with coldness and sharpness. The Taoist sect master also stood up from the treasure ship and looked at the abnormal place in the void with bright eyes. Buzzed a ray of bloodlight rushed out from the void and quickly condensed into a blood-colored array door. A figure rolled out from it. "It's him, Su Fang." Heartbreaker was overjoyed. She released a thought that swept across the void and was about to shackle Su Fang. At the same time, the Taoist sect master also released a thought that collided with Heartbreaker's thought. Both thoughts shattered at the same time. Su Fang's figure was revealed. Seeing that there were other experts besides Heartbreaker, Su Fang couldn't help but be startled. Then, a cold smile appeared on his face. Suddenly, Buzz, the Tao runes from the life shrinking technique suddenly flashed rapidly. Then, Su Fang felt an ethereal will come out from the void and fall on his body, connecting him with a law that existed in the void. This was very ethereal. If Su Fong hadn't mastered the life-shrinking technique, he wouldn't have been able to sense its existence. This should be the legendary Jiuquan Heavenly Law. It seems that I'm already on the Heavenly Profound ranking, so I'm protected by the Jiuquan Heavenly Law. As soon as I left the Blood Valley, the Jiuquan Heavenly Law sensed my existence. Chapter 2754. The experts from the three forces were all from powerful forces, and they were wary of each other. No one took the initiative to attack Su Fong, and the situation was in a stalemate. At this moment, Su Fong suddenly smiled and said aloud, "Since the three of you can't agree, why don't we have a competition? I will naturally follow whoever is stronger. At that time, I will not resist, and all the treasures on me will naturally belong to whoever is stronger." This kid is really cunning, Taoist sect leader snorted. Executioner Granny and the expert from the Chamber of Commerce remained indifferent. They were all cunning and could see that Su Fong was trying to sow discord. Naturally, they would not be fooled easily. However, no one wanted to take the initiative to attack and give the others a chance to take advantage of them. They're not fooled. Seeing that the experts from the three forces were not fooled, Su Fong could not help but feel disappointed. Then he said, "Since the three of you are so free, then stay here. I, Su Fong, will not accompany you. Goodbye." As he spoke, he merged his celestial body with his physical body. His body suddenly burned and turned into a fiery state. He performed the burning light escape skill and was about to escape. "Puny little Tao, true realm ant, if I let you slip away again, where would I put my face?" Zhu Xin hated Su Fong to the core. She immediately released a thought and merged it into the surrounding void. In an instant, the surrounding space seemed to be frozen. Zhu Xion's will, Taoist rhymes, and dermic powers controlled the space and confined the surrounding space. Although Su Fong's burning light escape skill was extraordinary, it was completely useless in front of a peerless expert who had surpassed the Tao Master. He was firmly sealed in place and could not escape. Su Fong showed no sign of fear. He raised his eyebrows and scolded Executioner Grandma. "You old freak, one day I, Su Fong, will catch you and tear your tendons apart. Kid, you're about to die, and you still dare to be so arrogant." Zhu Xin was completely enraged. QL11 whoosh. Whoosh. Executioner Granny released hundreds of thoughts at once, attacking the Taoist sect master, the experts of the Chamber of Commerce, and Su Fong. The three highest mysterious sect's divine abilities were shocking. Zhu Xin Popo's thoughts released the power of space, twisting and folding the layers of space. Initially, the Taoist sect master and the Chamber of Commerce's experts were not far from the Su Fong. Under the power of space, they were separated by endless space. "Brat, see how I'll deal with you." Grandmother Executioner wore a hideous grin as the will she directed at Su Fong transformed into a palm seal with a destructive aura and a will capable of suppressing his Tao heart and soul, suppressing Su Fong's figure. Zhu Xin Popo was infuriated by Su Fong. Her attacks became extremely ruthless. Not only did she want to capture Su Fong, she also wanted to make Su Fong suffer greatly. Su Fong did not move. Her eyes were filled with mockery and disdain as she looked at Heartbreaker. Could it be that this brat is up to something again? Grandmother Executioner's heart skipped a beat. She had a bad feeling about this. However, he quickly tossed it to the back of his mind. He was just a Tao true cultivator. Although he had the 6 extreme Tao Saint Dharma body and was a threat to her, Su Fong was already a fish in the net. At most, he would have to struggle for a while. What could he do? Boom! As Grandmother Executioner's thoughts moved, the palm seal formed by her will arrived above Su Fong's head and slammed down on Su Fong. This will attack was far beyond the limit of a Tao master. Even if it did not kill Su Fong, it would at least severely injure him. Just as the palm seal's power engulfed Su Fong and was about to suppress him, suddenly, divine power swept out from the void. It crushed Grandmother Executioner's will like a gust of wind, and she disappeared without a trace in an instant. That's the power of the heavenly laws. At the same time, Grandmother Executioner sensed that great danger was approaching. Her divine light changed instantly. Boom! A bolt of lightning flashed out from the void and landed on Grandmother Executioner's body. Even with Grandmother Executioner's strength, she could not resist the thunder. She could not dodge it or use any divine power. Even her Tao heart and Will were trembling under the power of the thunder. Even someone as powerful as Grandmother Executioner was as tiny as an ant in the face of this thunder. Crack! The thunder landed on Grandmother Executioner's body and broke her defense. Her physical body was severely injured. Her Tao heart was also attacked by the supreme Will contained in the thunder. There was a cracking sound. Although it was not broken, cracks were all over her body. Puffed. Grandmother Executioner spat out a mouthful of blood. Her aura became weak instantly. Although she did not die, she was severely injured. Jiuxuan's heavenly laws. It's the Jiuxuan's heavenly laws. Grandmother Executioner was terrified and shouted, Jiuxuan's heavenly laws. That brat is a peerless genius on the heavenly profound ranking. The Taoist sect master and the experts of the Chamber of Commerce were shocked and looked at Su Fong in disbelief. It's a pity that I didn't kill the expert from the 3 supreme mysterious sects. But it's good. Sooner or later, I'll take it all back with interest. Su Fong's ranking on the heavenly profound ranking was not high. Grandmother Executioner had violated the Jiuxuan's heavenly laws. She was only punished but not killed. Impossible. How can you be on the heavenly profound ranking? Grandmother Executioner could not accept this reality. She had waited here for thousands of years. She thought that Su Fong was a cooked duck and would not fly away. Who knew? The cooked duck suddenly turned into a hedgehog. Not only did she fail to catch him, she even pricked her hand until it was dripping with blood. What shocked Grandmother Executioner more was that Su Fong, a cultivator from a low-level universe, was able to be on the heavenly profound ranking. She could not accept that he did it after entering the Blood Valley. Grandmother Executioner stared at Su Fong and gritted her teeth. Damn brat, how dare you trick me? The Taoist sect master and the experts of the Chamber of Commerce looked at Su Fong with fear. Fortunately, it was Grandmother Executioner who made the first move. If it were them, they would be in trouble too. Too sneaky. Too despicable. This is just a small punishment for you. Su Fong smiled coldly. Then, he mocked Grandmother Executioner. Are you disappointed? I have to thank you. If you didn't force me to escape to the Blood Valley, how could I win 100 battles in the second Slaughter Star City, be listed on the heavenly profound ranking, and be protected by the Jiuxuan's heavenly laws? Won 100 battles in a row in the second Slaughter Star City? Su Fong's words shocked Grandmother Executioner, the Taoist sect master, and the experts of the Chamber of Commerce. These experts naturally knew the rules of the Blood Valley very well. They also knew how difficult it was to obtain 100 victories on the blood slaughter stage in the second Killing Star City. At the same time, it also proved Su Fong's talent and strength were heaven-defying. Young Master Su Fong, there was a misunderstanding between the Chamber of Commerce and you. We will make amends in the future. I will take my leave now. The expert of the Chamber of Commerce thought for a while and made a decisive decision. He cupped his fists at Su Fong and left quickly. Which expert of the Chamber of Commerce was not very smart? What kind of heaven-defying, peerless genius could win 100 battles in a row in the second Slaughter Star City? The Chamber of Commerce would not offend such a genius for treasures. Moreover, Su Fong was protected by the Jiuxuan's heavenly laws. They could not do anything to him. If the Chamber of Commerce did not resolve the grudge before Su Fong rose to power in the future, it would not be a good thing for the Chamber of Commerce. Grandmother Executioner looked at Su Fong with resentment. She could not take this lying down. Not to mention that her efforts were in vain, she was also seriously injured. How could she, an expert of the 3 supreme mysterious sects, take this lying down? However, what could she do if she did not leave? She was protected by the Jiuxuan's heavenly laws. Experts who surpassed the Taoist sect master would be punished by the Jiuxuan's heavenly laws if they attacked her. Grandmother Executioner had attacked Su Fong just now, but she was tricked by Su Fong and suffered such a big loss. Even if she stayed, she could only watch Su Fong. What else could she do to Su Fong? Grandmother Executioner was in a dilemma. She could not help but spit out another mouthful of blood. When Su Fong saw this, he was very unhappy. You chased me from the periphery of the sixth extreme Tao, Saint Divine Tomb, to the heaven-forsaken desolate region. You did not expect this day to come, right? Suddenly, the Taoist sect master suddenly said domineeringly, Su Fong, I'm the Taoist sect master. You killed my beloved son. How can I let you live? You're my territory now. I can't let you leave no matter what. Su Fong sneered. Taoist sect master, do you dare to look down on the Jiuxuan's heavenly laws and want to attack me? Even Lord Dongxian Daozu does not dare to look down on the Jiuxuan's heavenly laws, let alone me. The Taoist sect master said embarrassedly. Then he smiled proudly. However, the Jiuxuan's heavenly laws restrict experts who surpass the Taoist sect master from attacking you. However, experts below the Taoist sect master are not restricted. You're in my territory. Why do I have to attack you personally? As soon as he finished speaking, swoosh, 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 swoosh. How could I have forgotten about that? Su Fong, even though I can't obtain you, a mere Taoist sect ant-like, you will be unable to escape the fate of being suppressed when facing so many experts of the Taoist sect. I can finally vent my anger by watching you die at the hands of the Taoist sect. TSK, TSK. Su Fong's brows raised as he sneered with disdain. I'm afraid I'll disappoint you again. Swoosh. The two experts of the Taoist sect were intermediate Taoist sect experts. For the sake of showing off before the Taoist sect's master, they fought to be the first to charge out from the numerous cultivators of the Taoist sect and arrived 300 m away from Su Fong. Both of them released their thoughts at practically the same time with the intention of suppressing Su Fong. Bang! A strand of slaughter aura surged into the sky. It instantly caused the space in an area of 5,000 kilometers to be dyed blood red, and it fell into an expanse of slaughter aura. It turned out that Su Fong had directly merged the blood demon avatar with his body, and the two-star slaughter diagrams emanated an aura of slaughter at the same time. Originally, the blood demon avatar of a two-star god slaughter general was unable to pose a threat to an intermediate Taoist sect expert after leaving the blood gorge. However, Su Fong's blood demon avatar was extraordinary, especially the first star of slaughter diagram on the blood red armor. It possessed 81 slaughter marks. So how shocking was the aura of slaughter it emanated? Chapter 2755. Kill. Su Fong, who'd fused with his body, was like a god of death, and he'd become ferocious, violent, and filled with monstrous killing intent. After he shouted coldly and fiercely, the slaughter mark on Su Fong's blood-red armor floated up into appearance, and it emanated strands of the aura of slaughter that swiftly condensed into numerous strands of sword chi. After that, they formed a sword formation that swept towards the experts of the Taoist sect. Hiss! Hiss! Those two intermediate Taoist realm experts that were charging at the front were terrified by the aura of slaughter that erupted abruptly from Su Fong, and they were in a state where their Tao hearts were shaken. Under the impact of the sword formation, even though its might was able to break through the defenses of their bodies, the slaughter intent contained within the sword formation directly shattered their Tao hearts, and even their quintessent souls were annihilated by the slaughter intent. Su Fong's blood-fiend body was so formidable. Everywhere the sword formation swept out, it was like the autumn wind sweeping away fallen leaves, and over 10 experts of the Taoist sect had their Tao hearts and souls shattered, causing them to perish on the spot. There were over 100 cultivators behind them that were affected as well. All of them were trembling while their Tao hearts were shaken, and their quintessent souls were on the verge of shattering. They were terrified to the point of turning around and flying towards the treasure vessel. How could they have the courage to face Su Fong? Su Fong swept out with a strand of divine might that sucked all the corpses that floated in midair into the space within his body, and then he looked at the Taoist sect's master and sneered. How many more subordinates do you have? Why don't you release all of them? Heartbreaker's expression changed instantly. This kid is actually formidable to such an extent. How could an ant at the true Tao realm possibly cultivate such a formidable blood-fiend body. The Taoist sect's master was shocked and extremely furious, and he roared like a thunderclap. You actually dared to kill the experts of my Taoist sect in such an unbridled manner right before my eyes. I swear they'll definitely tear you into pieces. Do you dare to make a move against me? Su Fong scoffed with disdain and laughed coldly. After that, he said in a domineering manner, if the Taoist sect and your three sovereign mysterious sects want to deal with me, then feel free to send your forces over. I, Su Fong, guarantee that I'll kill every single one of them without mercy. The Taoist sect master was so angry that his entire body was trembling. His golden robe and golden crown were flashing with a xianguan. However, if he were to truly make a move against Su Fong, he would never have the courage to violate the laws of Jushuan. Farewell, both of you. Under the gazes of two peerless experts that had surpassed the Daolord realm, Su Fong left embarrassedly, and he was extremely composed and carefree. This is infuriating. The Taoist sect leader raised his head to the sky and let out an earth-shattering roar. His voice caused ripples to appear in the void, and then layer by layer collapsed. The masters of the Taoist sect on the ship felt their eardrums shatter. Some of the weaker cultivators had their Tao hearts shattered and fainted on the spot. When the voice died down, Grandma Zhu Xian's gloomy voice came. Taoist sect leader, don't forget that the Taoist sect is the most powerful force in the heaven-forsaken wilderness. Can't you think of a way to deal with a mere Daojin realm cultivator? The Taoist sect leader snorted. Experts that have surpassed the Daolord realm can't make a move against Su Fong. Even the Daolord experts are no match for him. How can I deal with him? Heartbreaker smiled and said, Taoist sect master, this is the heaven-forsaken wilderness. As long as you reveal the fact that Su Fong has a great treasure, countless cultivators from the heaven-forsaken wilderness will rush to him. No matter how strong he is, can he stop thousands of bandits? The Taoist sect leader's eyes lit up, and his anger was quickly extinguished. Su Fong took out the fiery cloud flying carriage and sped along. After about 3 years, they found a 1,000-mile-long material ruin in the void. It's here. Su Fong was about to level up, and he could no longer suppress the disaster chi in his body. This ruin was just right for him to level up. Just as he landed on the ruin, hundreds of cultivators flew out from the depths of the ruin. Each of them looked ferocious. They were a group of bandits. Bandits could be seen everywhere in the heaven-forsaken wilderness. Su Fong did not find it strange to encounter so many bandits here. This place belongs to me. All of you, get out of my way. Su Fong released his blood-evil chi, and it shrouded the entire ruin. Those bandits who came aggressively were scared out of their wits, and they fled the ruin in a hurry. Su Fong landed on a ridge above the ruin, and then he let Master Zhuo out. Quickly help me create a formation to protect the entire ruin. Although Master Zhuo was not dead set on Su Fong, he had to work hard to get the opportunity to use Su Fong's Luo Tian wheel to cultivate the way of formation. Master Zhuo's formation skills were indeed extraordinary. Coupled with the cooperation of Su Fong's essence soul avatar, they created layers of formations in 10 days, and the entire ruin was tightly protected. Qin Heng, Wu Ming, Xian Tiancheng, protect me. Then, Su Fong released the 3 Dao Lords under his command. Su Fong had subdued more than 10 Dao Lords in Blood Valley's second-star killer city. Su Fong handed all of them over to the 3 Dao Lords he trusted. This was the heaven-forsaken wilderness, and Su Fong had to be careful. He asked the 3 Dao Lords to protect him when he was leveling up, and added layers of formations to ensure that nothing went wrong. Once everything was ready, Su Fong had just sat down cross-legged in the formation when a shocking disaster chi spurted out from his body. His aura was indeed shocking. It did not seem like a Dao True Realm cultivator's leveling up, but a Dao Lord who had surpassed a great step, or even stronger. Even Qin Heng and the other Dao Lords were shocked when they sensed the terrifying aura of Su Fong's breakthrough. Suddenly, boom, boom, QL11 Earth. Shattering sounds came from the ruins at the periphery of the material world, and the array formation trembled violently. Someone was attacking the formation. Su Fang's eyebrows raised like swords. He sensed that there were hundreds of cultivators outside the ruins, and they were using their divine abilities and Xianbao to attack the formation crazily. These cultivators were all wearing wolf masks, and they were obviously from the same force. Why are there bandits here so soon? Su Fang could not help but be surprised. Whoosh, a large black ship with a black sail that was 1,000 feet tall flew over from the void with the momentum of breaking the wind and breaking the waves. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Nearly 500 black-clothed cultivators flew out from the large black ship and headed straight for the material ruins where Su Fang was. They were obviously experts from another force. There were also many bandits in groups of 3 to 5, and some were alone. They rushed over like ducks. Su Fang immediately understood. There are so many bandits. It must be that Taoist sect master. He doesn't dare to attack me personally, so he instigated these bandits to attack me. Despicable. Qin Hung transmitted his thoughts. Master, let me kill my way out and beat these bandits to a pulp. Su Fang rejected decisively. No need. They can't break the formation in a short time. Let them slowly attack the formation first. Then, Su Fang ignored the bandits and started to form seals. His body erupted with a shocking aura. Chi! His aura surged into the void of the heaven-forsaken desolation region and disappeared without a trace. Not long after, vast dark clouds appeared in the void. There are a total of 9 heavenly tribulations when one becomes a Tao Lord. It's extremely dangerous for ordinary cultivators, but it's nothing to me. Su Fang revealed a domineering smile. When cultivators transcended the Tao Lord tribulation, they touched the true essence of the heavenly Tao and caused the great Tao contained in the chaos to resonate with the cultivator. The heavenly tribulation would descend and cleanse the cultivator's marrow. In addition to cleansing the body, the Tao Lord tribulation also cleansed the cultivator's Tao heart, will, and soul. It condensed thoughts so that the cultivator could use dharmic powers and Taoist rhythms to perform thought attacks. Although Su Fang had an extraordinary Dharma body now, he couldn't perform any thought attacks except for the true eyes of destruction. If he could condense his thoughts to perform an attack, he could perform a supreme divine ability with a single thought. How powerful would he be then? Su Fang released his aura and waited for a dozen breaths. In the sky above the material ruins, tribulation clouds began to surge and gather in the center. The bandits who were attacking the formation crazily stopped. Someone is transcending the tribulation. It's Su Fang. He's really transcending the tribulation in the ruins formation. These bandits were very clear about Su Fang's background. They knew that Su Fang was in a state of tribulation transcendence. Boss, should we hide for a while? If we're affected by the tribulation, we'll be in big trouble. A bandit wearing a wolf mask asked the leading green-robed cultivator. The green-robed cultivator sneered disdainfully. How powerful can the tribulation be when a Tao true cultivator becomes a Tao Lord? One of the bandits laughed out loud and said, even if that Brad is a powerful genius, he can only attract a tribulation cloud that covers an area of 30 miles at most. These ruins are thousands of miles wide, and we are at the periphery of the ruins. How can it affect us? The green-robed cultivator nodded. That's right. I heard that kid took advantage of the city lord's accidental death in Blood Valley's second Starkiller city to steal everything from the city lord's treasury. I don't know how many treasures he took. Right now, he's at a critical moment in his tribulation. He can't escape even if he wants to. We can suppress him and take all the treasures he stole. The news is spread to all the major forces around Dallas City. The Black Sail Gang is already here, and I don't know how many experts are rushing here. If we're late, we won't even get a bite of the soup. Kill our way in and kill that kid. The bandits wearing wolf masks didn't retreat. Instead, they attacked the formation even more crazily. The bandits who came out of the Black Treasure ship were hesitant at first, but when they saw the actions of the bandits with wolf masks, they didn't want to fall behind and attacked the formation even more crazily from different directions. The tribulation clouds in the sky gradually formed, tearing open the void and beginning to roar in thunder. The tribulation had been brewing for more than 6 hours. When the tribulation clouds completely formed and the terrifying tribulation aura enveloped the void below, the bandits realized that their previous judgment was ridiculously wrong. Chapter 2756. Could it be an expert at the peak of the upper-level Tao Lord realm who is ascending to the Tao Lord realm? An ordinary Tao Lord's ascension wouldn't attract such a shocking tribulation cloud. Only those powerful Tao Lords would be able to do so. The aura of the heavenly tribulation is clearly that of a Tao Lord. How could it be a Tao Lord's heavenly tribulation? Who has ever seen a Tao Lord's heavenly tribulation so shocking? Everyone was shocked and exclaimed. They were trembling in the aura of the heavenly tribulation. How could they still care about attacking the formation? They all fled in panic. However, their speed was limited in the aura of the heavenly tribulation. They could barely fly. It was very difficult for them to escape the area enveloped by the aura of the heavenly tribulation. Even the 3 Tao Lords, Qin Heng, Wu Ming, and Xian Tiancheng, who were in the formation, were deeply shocked. Only now did they realize how extraordinary their master was. The heavenly tribulation was formed by the resonance of a cultivator's aura. From the scale and power of the heavenly tribulation, one could judge a cultivator's cultivation talent and future achievements. Su Fang's Tao Lord heavenly tribulation was 100 times stronger than ordinary cultivators. It even surpassed ordinary Tao Lord heavenly tribulations. It was enough to show how shocking his future achievements were. How could such a shocking heavenly tribulation not shock anyone? Qi. The first heavenly tribulation descended. Su Fang sensed that the aura of the heavenly tribulation was more than 10 times stronger than when he ascended to the Tao True Realm. However, no matter how strong it was only at the level of a Tao Lord. Although Su Fang was a Tao True Realm cultivator, he had already surpassed the Tao Lord realm. Why would he care about the Tao Lord heavenly tribulation? Whoosh! QL11 Su Fang didn't want to destroy the formation on the material ruins. Thus, he soared into the sky from the formation. At this moment, the first heavenly tribulation attacked him rapidly. Su Fang executed the origin-returning 6 unity sword art and casually grabbed out streaks of sword chi. They turned into surging sword chi that rose into the sky and collided with the first heavenly tribulation. Boom, boom, boom. After a series of collisions, the first heavenly tribulation quickly shattered and turned into tribulation fire fragments that flew in all directions. The second heavenly tribulation came one after another, and its attacks were even more ferocious and domineering. Su Fang's eyes flashed with ruthlessness when he saw the fleeing bandits. He didn't attack the second tribulation. Instead, he activated his Flaming Steps treasured boots. Borrowing the powerful force of the boots, he flashed into the midst of the bandits wearing wolf masks. The heavenly tribulation seemed to have a mind of its own. It followed the Su Fang and swept over in an instant. Boom! Boom! The tribulation fire formed by the power of the heavenly tribulation swept through the area. Hundreds of bandits were burned by the tribulation fire until they wailed like ghosts and howled like wolves, covering their heads and fleeing like rats. As for Su Fang, not even a single strand of his hair was touched by the heavenly tribulation. Many bandits helped Su Fang share the power of the heavenly tribulation, which angered the will of the heavenly tribulation. The heavenly tribulation clouds rolled violently, and terrifying heavenly thunder rumbled. It was as if the end of the world had arrived. Crack! After brewing for a while, a bolt of thunder carrying a destructive divine might shot out from the tribulation clouds like a wild dragon. Such a heavenly tribulation was far more powerful than a Tao Lord's heavenly tribulation. Su Fang sneered and activated his Flaming Steps treasured boots, charging straight for the black ship. Damn bastard! The bandits on the black ship who were fleeing towards it were scared out of their wits. They frantically fled into the distance. The lightning instantly engulfed Su Fang, the surrounding bandits, and the black ship. Rumble! Thunderous rumbles resounded in the sky. The black treasure ship's defense was shattered, and the black sail was riddled with holes. However, this Xianbao was truly extraordinary. It hadn't been destroyed by the heavenly tribulation. However, the surrounding bandits were in for a bad time. All of them were blasted open by the heavenly tribulation. Their Tao hearts and wills were also attacked by the supreme will of the heavenly tribulation. Cracks appeared, and they were on the verge of shattering. The bandits below the Tao Lord level were directly killed by the heavenly tribulation. Despicable. This brat is too despicable. Let's join forces and kill him. Let's see how arrogant he can be. Oh no, the heavenly tribulation is coming again. The bandits were fuming with anger and prepared to join forces to deal with Su Fang. Unexpectedly, the third wave of the heavenly tribulation descended. It looked even more domineering and terrifying than the second wave. Even an upper-level Tao Lord cultivator would lose a layer of skin if they survived such a heavenly tribulation. Run! The bandits no longer dared to attack Su Fang. They used all kinds of methods and used all their strength to hurriedly flee into the distance. In the face of the powerful third wave of the heavenly tribulation, although it wasn't much of a threat to Su Fang didn't dare to be too careless. He gave up on the bandits and used the origin harmonization sword art to form a sword formation. He shattered the third wave of the heavenly tribulation into countless fragments of tribulation fire. The stronger bandits finally rushed out of the area enveloped by the aura of the heavenly tribulation. They all felt as if they had just survived a disaster. Despicable brat, you better not die in the heavenly tribulation. I'll pull out your tendons and skin you alive. It's best if I strip off his soul and refine it properly. No matter if it was the bandits in wolf masks, the bandits on the black ships, or the scattered bandits, all of them gnashed their teeth at Su Fang. The fourth wave, the fifth wave. Wave after wave of heavenly tribulation descended. With Su Fang's current strength, he didn't even take upper-level Tao Lords seriously. No matter how domineering the heavenly tribulation of a Tao Lord was, it was still limited to the Tao Lord realm. So, it was naturally unable to pose any threat to Su Fang. As for the terrifying intent of the heavenly tribulation that specialized in suppressing and attacking a cultivator's Tao heart, it was even more difficult to shake Su Fang's Tao heart in the slightest. Under the attentive gazes of countless people, Su Fang casually executed his divine ability to shatter the waves of heavenly tribulation. Such an imposing aura didn't seem like a Tao truth cultivator overcoming a tribulation at all. It was clearly a Tao Lord dealing with the heavenly tribulation of a Tao Lord. It was too easy. Such a casual attitude caused the three Tao Lords under Su Fang and the numerous powerful experts who were watching from afar to fall into intense shock. They couldn't believe that such a terrifying cultivator actually existed. Some bandits started to think of retreating. No matter how good the treasures were, they had to be alive to obtain them. How could they know that the strength Su Fang displayed at this moment wasn't his true strength at all? A heavenly tribulation of such a scale wasn't enough for him to go all out. Under Su Fang's formidable strength, the heavenly tribulation shattered layer by layer. Boom, boom. The most powerful ninth wave of heavenly tribulation descended from the sky. It's time to end this. Su Fang executed an expanse of sword chi with his profound Yang Dharma body, and it transformed into a flaming sword formation that charged towards the heavenly tribulation. The ninth wave of heavenly tribulation was quickly shattered by the sword formation, and the sword formation was constantly shattering under the might of the heavenly tribulation. The heavenly tribulation and the sword formation were in a stalemate for more than 10 breaths of time before the ninth wave of heavenly tribulation finally exhausted its might and vanished without a trace. Su Fang's gaze swept past the bandits in the distance, and he smiled disdainfully. After that, he passed through the formation and descended onto the physical ruins. Whoosh! Su Fang had just sat down cross-legged when a wave of baptism power descended and enveloped him. At the same time, Su Fang's physical body burned with tribulation fire, and his body began to frantically advance. Countless forces pushed him to advance from the Tao reality realm to a higher realm. The impact of the advancement force was astonishing. Su Fang's physical body, Tao Palace, and even his Dharma body shattered layer by layer under the impact force. The entire process was extremely painful, as if they were being shattered and then rebuilt. However, with the help of the baptism power, everything that was shattered was quickly restored, and in the process of being shattered and restored, he was transformed. Qi. As soon as the various impacts in his body calmed down, Su Fang's body burned with a heaven-defying aura flame. Whoosh, whoosh. The flame burned wildly, engulfing Su Fang. After burning for more than 10 days, the tribulation fire gradually dissipated. Su Fang's entire body seemed to have been reborn from the fire, and his entire person had undergone a transformation. The skin of his physical body was as tender and lustrous as a baby's. His hair flashed with divine splendor, and every cell was glowing with an incomparably powerful vitality. The changes in his body were even more shocking. His physical body became more vast and profound, and at the same time, it became more powerful and full of vitality. The Jiuquan Tao Palace became more vast, and the Dharma bodies also underwent a transformation. Seals containing profound Taoist rhythms were condensing on the barrier of the Jiuquan Tao Palace, the chaotic region around the Tao Palace and the Dharma bodies, causing the Tao Palace and Dharma bodies to become stronger and more stable. The colorful jade Tao heart became more moist, and it emitted a dazzling light. A mysterious, colorful mist lingered around the Tao heart. Tao Lord Realm. After coming to the Eastern Xian divine domain and going through many dangers, Su Fang finally succeeded in becoming a Tao Lord. Moreover, Su Fang's Tao Lord realm was different from ordinary Tao Lords. This meant that Su Fang now had the ability to establish himself in the Eastern Xian divine domain. Although he did not have the strength to dominate, he was no longer a weakling who could be trampled on. Coupled with the experts under his command and the 6 extreme Tao Sage Dharma bodies, Su Fang could now control a mystic world. Hurry up and recover, and get rid of those bandits as soon as possible. Having just broken through, Su Fang's physical body and Dharma bodies were very weak. He had to recover as soon as possible. Although he did not think much of those bandits, there were simply too many of them. They swarmed over like flies, and Su Fang felt a headache coming on. Su Fang began to wantonly devour pills to recover his empty physical body and Dharma bodies. That kid has just transcended his tribulation and is in a weakened state. Capture him. That kid is really hateful. Even if we don't want his treasures, we have to kill him. Seeing that the heavenly tribulation had ended, the bandits rushed back. Driven by the temptation of the treasures on Su Fang's body and their anger towards Su Fang, the bandits charged to the periphery of the material wasteland and launched fierce attacks on the formation. It was not just the 2 groups of bandits from before. There were even more bandits swarming towards the material wasteland like locusts. Su Fang's sensing power passed through the formation and sensed what was happening outside. He raised his eyebrows and said to Qin Hung and the others in a voice filled with killing intent, "Lure those bandits into the formation. I will ask Master Zhou to cooperate with you and suppress all of those bandits. Except for those with extraordinary strength, kill the rest." Which of these bandits did not kill people like flies?